We are introduced to the main character by showing him his room and his desk. The guy is playing some RPG game using his laptop camera. He talks about his game strategy while wearing huge headphones, and we are shown his appearance. His character is given a new environment, a baseball bat. The brown-haired man himself is happy with this find. The hero continues to voice his thoughts on the game, as if he were streaming, telling his strategy. We are shown the guy's eye, where it is clear that a blackout has appeared on his monitor, which makes him clearly shocked by the donation he received. The brunette is so dark that he takes the birch pose on his gaming chair, loudly shouting words of gratitude. Due to his impulsive actions, the young man falls from the chair, clearly landing painfully on his body. The guy makes such strange and abrupt movements on purpose to thank his donor. He receives messages in the chat from the user, the only one, after which the brown-haired man realizes that he has lost. The hero apologizes to his viewers. He shouldn't have been so distracted by the donation. The protagonist does not despair, saying that he was saved at the checkpoint and will be able to restore experience. He reaches his cursor towards the respawn at checkpoint button, and we are shown his monitor screen. Viewer, the only one, asks if it would be funny if he were the only viewer of the main character. The brunette was clearly shocked by this question because he didn't expect this at all from the viewer. Then we are finally told the name of the main character, whose name is Harry. He is indeed a streamer. The guy recovers from the shock after a viewer's question, smiling softly, and they tell him not to say such words. It turns out that this one is indeed Harry's only viewer. The user sends strange messages that he will choose the brunette. The young man himself does not understand anything either. Blue-eyed asks himself what the viewer means, but then simply thanks him. The brown-haired man jumps up from his chair, throwing aside his headphones, after he hears a loud sound. The sound stops, and the guy tries to listen to what is happening on the street, falling silent. Harry then hears loud noises outside again, which makes him feel increasingly anxious. The brunette abruptly opens his window to check the situation outside, clearly worried about himself. The blue-eyed man's face is illuminated with a purple light, and we see in the reflection of his eyes that something terrible is happening. The main character sees complete chaos. Buildings are burning. It feels like the apocalypse has arrived. People on the street are running away. The brown-haired man doesn't understand at all what's going on. We are shown two of Harry's monitors that have gone out, leaving the hero himself in shock and feeling anxious. The protagonist touches the power supply of his computer, realizing that it no longer works. The brown-haired man breaks out in a cold sweat. He doesn't know what to do now. Maybe he should go outside. He puts on his jacket and walks out of his house, looking around for people nearby. Looking around, a girl runs past him at high speed, clearly in a panic. The brown-haired man runs up to her, asking her for forgiveness. He wants to finally find out what is going on. The girl is very short of breath, covered in cold sweat, and looks at him with an empty gaze. The brunette gets very scared and runs away from the guy screaming, clearly alarmed by the whole situation. Blue-eyed doesn't run after her, clearly in a daze, while the girl runs away. Suddenly, a lot of windows appear next to the hero, and they seem to contain comments from viewers. Noticing them, the hero is even more shocked. His face is illuminated by the blue light from the windows. The brown-haired man screams loudly about why he can even see these windows. The situation becomes more and more incomprehensible. We are shown a blue chat window where viewers are laughing at the guy's reaction, calling him funny. Blue-eyed tries to touch the windows, but he can't. His hand goes through them. The audience continues to comment on what is happening, while a dark figure approaches the hero outside the chat window. Harry is horrified to see the creature's leg approaching him. He can't believe his eyes. The zombies that the young man had been fighting for so long in video games appear before the young man. The guy can't believe his eyes because before he only sees zombies on his PC screen. The monster tries to grab the brown-haired man, but he manages to dodge, then kicking him away. The gamer looks back at the monster, then starts running away from it as fast as he can. The viewers continue to make fun of the hero by writing comments that appear in the windows. The brown-haired man runs to the elevator and randomly presses buttons to quickly save himself, then runs into the elevator. In the reflection of the blue-eyed man's eye, we see the zombie's hand, which reaches out to him and wants to grab him. Then we see fragments flying in different directions that can cut the hero. The monster breaks through the window behind the brown-haired man. The gamer tries to cover his body from the fragments, covering himself with a jacket. We are shown up close the glass eyes of the monster, which exude horror. The brown-haired man runs up the stairs as fast as he can, while the monster chases after him at the same speed. Harry finally reaches the 7th floor, literally on the verge of death. The hero realizes that the zombie is too close and he needs to increase the distance between them. Having run a few more floors, the blue-eyed man notices an exit to the roof, his salvation. Increasing the distance, he quickly grabs the door handle and begins to tug on it. Covered in a cold sweat, the brown-haired man realizes that the door was closed. The viewer comment windows continue to pop up as the monster gets closer. The young man finally opens the door, which makes the audience love him even more. The guy quickly runs onto the roof, closing the door with his body, trying to catch his breath. Harry goes outside, his breathing very heavy. The gamer hopes that this will help him. The brunette tries to collect his thoughts, thinking over the whole situation, while the commentators laugh at him. The main character understands that he needs to somehow deal with the zombie first, because he won't be able to hold him like this for long. Blue Eyes thinks about finding a weapon, because he definitely won't be able to defend himself with his bare hands. The gamer turns around sharply, hearing some strange noise behind him. There was another zombie hiding on the roof who came out to attack the defenseless young man. The brown-haired man turns his gaze on him, clearly surprised by the appearance of another monster. This fat zombie turns out to be the main character's landlord, who doesn't look at all friendly. The hero again realizes that it is time to run, but then he trips on a building on the roof with his foot. Harry is knocked down by this huge zombie. The boy breaks out in a cold sweat, while the commentators laugh again. While the brown-haired man tries not to die in the clutches of the monster, the viewer notices a box of supplies behind them. Blue Eyes also pays attention to him, trying to push the huge carcass away from himself. Suddenly, the zombie opens its mouth to bite the guy, but he manages to fight it off with his foot. Having knocked the creature onto its back, the hero turned his gaze to the box of supplies that he so wanted to get to. But the former owner of the house does not waste a minute, again trying to pounce on the young man. Harry is clearly getting annoyed by this. The guy is trying not to go crazy while he is surrounded by monsters everywhere. The brown-haired man pushes the fat man with his back, trying to protect himself from his bites. But the main character himself does not realize how he pushes the zombie off the roof. The man is already flying down. The monster turns to the guy. While he was flying to the ground, he doesn't have much longer to fly. The gamer was covered in sweat due to how much effort he had put in to survive. The guy just sits down to catch his breath when the door to the corridor behind him opens again. Zombies are just trying to crawl out of the half-open door, reaching out with their hands for the victim. There are about 3 monsters behind the doors, and seeing this picture, the hero wonders if they are making fun of him. Harry backs away, seeing several monsters in front of him. He freezes from the fear he feels. Hitting his foot on something, the brown-haired man realizes that this is the same chest of supplies that he saw. Blue Eyes remembers that in the chat they wrote that there was a chest next to him. The young man finally smiles, because at least something good happens to him during this difficult day. When opening the chest, a stream of bright light shines on the protagonist, as well as on the zombies that are trying to get through the door. The supply box contains a bat, and the commentators congratulate the hero on receiving his first weapon. But the zombies don't keep you waiting, and a second later they seep through the door that leads to the roof. Harry immediately takes the bat into his hands, preparing to defend himself from the creatures that are running towards him. Shayton recalls all his experience in zombie games, determined to win. Blue Eyes smiles, preparing to kill his opponents because he finally has a weapon. The main character says that the end of this world is just a game for him and goes to the monsters with a bat. The gamer swings his bat at the crowd of monsters, clearly ready for the battle he has been waiting for so long. Harry has an epic zombie fight, swinging his bat so hard we can see the airflow. But at some point, the guy's strength runs out, the scene ceases to be so epic, and the young man's movements become weaker. Although he is brown-haired and self-confident from the start, he does not know how to fight at all, waving a bat in front of him. Commentators also note that the hero does not know how to fight at all. Some ridicule him, others support him. Blue-Eyed himself realizes that he can't swing the bat. The guy is simply defending himself from bites. Suddenly, while he was defending himself, a zombie came behind him, trying to bite him while he was too vulnerable. The protagonist understands that it is time to run. The young man is once again determined to survive. The brown-haired man accidentally falls to the ground, dropping his bat, which makes the commentators laugh because something surreal is happening. Harry breaks out in a cold sweat as he picks up the bat from the floor as zombies advance behind him, eager to eat more. The main character suddenly breaks his bat on the roof floor so that he is left with only one end of it. The monsters keep advancing, but the brown-haired man resolutely heads towards them with a piece of bat. Blue Eyes thrusts the sharp edge of a wooden bat into the throats of his opponents, piercing each throat. We are shown a close-up of the zombies themselves and how accurately the young man stuck the bat into their throats. The guy himself is already sweating from all the stress he experienced. We are also shown a comment from a mysterious person who did not expect this from the hero. We find ourselves back in Harry's apartment, and we are shown his monitors that are turned off, meaning the electricity will no longer be turned on. Under the comments praising the brunette, the gamer himself is steaming in his closet, searching for something. The main character understands that both the phone and the computer will not work normally, unfortunately. The mysterious person appears again in the form of a comment, asking the brown-eyed man what he will do this time. The brunette takes a backpack with him, intending to go to his parents to find out the situation from them. We are shown keys in the guy's hands, which creates intrigue. Does he really have a car? It would help a lot. The city is empty. The streets are quiet. There is not a single soul. The only sound is the engine the gamer is driving. Harry ends up with a moped, which he uses to travel to his parents, and the audience is already heatedly discussing all of his actions. Blue-Eyed is very tense because there is almost no gasoline left. The young man hopes that his parents are safe. Suddenly, something rushes in front of the hero's moped so quickly that neither we nor the gamer himself can see it. Due to the suddenness of the situation, the guy brakes too quickly, causing him to fall off his moped at high speed onto the asphalt. The hero clearly had a rough landing, but miraculously he remains alive, and the audience themselves are also a little shocked by this. With horror in his eyes, the young man turns to the entity that caused him to slow down so quickly. A huge frog with a bright pink color appears in front of the guy. It looks hostile. Harry himself calls it a hell frog. Blue-Eyed is surprised that not only zombies but also such creatures have appeared in the world. What else could have appeared? The monster wastes no time and attacks the gamers with its fast and massive tongue, wanting to taste their flesh. The main character calls it a roulette. The young man should avoid direct routes because there is a chance of running into monsters. The guy resolutely runs away, having already come up with a plan in his head for retreating from the huge hellish frog. Blue Eyes barely manages to dodge the fast tongue of the frog, which follows him closely. Shaitan realizes that he needs to go deep into the translation as soon as possible, otherwise he will not survive. The hero understands that the more often he turns, the greater the gamer's chances of survival from attacks. Harry took a lighter with him just in case, which he put in his backpack. The young man hopes that this will help him. A huge hellish frog is already approaching the hero, they say to attack at the first opportunity. In the hands of the gamer himself, we see a Molotov cocktail, which he made from improvised means. Covered in sweat, the brown-haired man is determined to win, provoking the frog to attack. The first time the huge creature misses and falls onto a mountain of garbage, the blue-eyed one managed to dodge in time. The protagonist quickly lights his Molotov cocktail with a lighter he had in his briefcase and throws it at the frog. The creature clearly didn't expect the gamer to be able to do something like that. The cocktail hits the frog on the back. Harry had more Molotov cocktails in his bag, and the young man knew that one bottle would definitely not be enough. The guy throws the second bottle right into the face of a huge fire frog, causing the creature to start croaking loudly. The hero takes out another bottle from his backpack, and the audience wonders how many he has in total. The gamer replies that this is his last supply, he must act riskily, but he has no other choice. Brown-haired again provokes the toad to attack with his screams. He clearly has a plan of what he is going to do next. The creature doesn't lose its head and immediately attacks him with its massive tongue. The blue-eyed one manages to dodge the attack. The hero holds his backpack in front of him, clutched by the toad, taking out the last of his supplies. A young man throws a lit Molotov cocktail straight into the mouth of a fire frog as it attacks him. The toad is thrown back, its body swelling with heat. Harry still stands near the wall, waiting for what will happen next. The protagonist watches his enemy burn. The audience is amazed by his determination and madness. The brown-haired man looks at the burnt body of the recently dangerous frog, wondering if this is all. The person in charge speaks again through the comments to the brown-eyed man. She explains that this is just the beginning of the game. The gamer begins to worry a lot about whether this is all a game, whether he really died in some game. Harry braces himself, clutching the strap of his backpack. No, he's not ready to die a stupid death. Suddenly, a window appears in front of the young man, informing him that he has received a new achievement. The brown-haired man can't believe his eyes. The guy actually got a new skill for killing the fire frog. Blue Eyes carefully reads the skill, which talks about provoking monsters for 10 minutes and accumulating a record. Even in such a tense situation, the young man thinks like a streamer and thinks to take what will bring him more viewers. The main character closes the pop-up window with his voice, and it immediately obeys him and closes. The gamer decides to postpone this decision for later, because now the main thing is to make sure that his parents are safe. The brown-haired man returns to his scooter. It turns out to be destroyed to pieces, thanks to a huge fire toad. Harry decides to walk to his parents' house, hoping for their safety as he walks through the deserted city. The main character breaks out in a cold sweat from what he sees in front of him. He clearly feels unwell. The house of the young man's parents looks half destroyed. The audience also laughs at this, but now is not the time for jokes. The shock has passed, and the brown-haired man bursts into his old house, shouting for his parents, hoping that they are safe. The hero starts screaming more actively because his nerves are already giving way, and the last thing he needs is for his parents to suffer too. 166. Blue Eyes searches the house, entering various rooms, continuing to shout at his parents. Having searched literally everything, the guy finally realizes that there are no relatives in the house. At least, they did not become dead. The young man is very nervous, and the comments from the audience, who are making fun of him, do not help him at all. We learn an interesting fact that Harry's parents write everything down, which means there must be clues somewhere as to where they can be found. Looking around, the gamer cannot find a single clue that his parents left behind. He clearly begins to fall into despair. The brown-haired man suddenly remembers his room. Maybe his parents left some kind of clue there. Coming to his room, the guy sees a piece of paper on his desk, which the blue-eyed man takes into his hands. The note says that the boy's parents left with a detachment of soldiers, writing down their division. Harry is horrified when he reads what is written. Have they really already left? The guy is overcome with shock throughout his body. He can't believe that his parents left with the soldiers from the 7.5 division. Is this really some kind of special division? We are shown a close-up of the main character's reaction to what he read. He again mentions the 7.5 division. Perhaps it really is dangerous for parents. The viewers thought that the parents abandoned their son, because why didn't they wait for him? They could have left together. Harry understands that something is not right here. He says out loud that this whole situation is really stressing him out. The brown-haired man knows his father, and the man would not have left first, which means that something is wrong with this note. Blue-eyed again continues to think that everything that happens to him is just a game. The course of his thoughts is clear. If this is a game, then the plot is written here, which means this note is part of the plot that the gamer will have to go through. The hero understands that he needs to be patient to find his parents, who went into the military. While checking the shelves, the young man stumbles upon several cans of tuna left over from his parents in the kitchen. Even viewers notice how calm the guy is because he just found out about the disappearance of his parents. After searching the entire kitchen and finding a few more cans of tuna, Harry decides to cook himself some food and then head outside again. We are shown his old house, which looks pretty decent. The brown-haired man puts the tuna he found on the table. Blue Eyes once again realizes what situation he is in. Asking if there are zombies in the house, he should examine it. A guy walks over to the knives in his kitchen, picking up the largest one in the house. Then we are shown the interior of the house again. It really does look cozy, but the apocalypse has clearly battered it. The hero stands with a knife, expecting the unexpected. The gamer hears some strange sounds behind him, and the young man breaks out in a cold sweat from fear. The hero understands that it was a rustling sound outside, and is already running towards the strange rustling sound that does not stop. The brown-haired man immediately opens the window to find out what it was and to protect himself from danger. Suddenly, a stained zombie hand reaches out to him, trying to grab him and then bite him. Harry didn't expect this turn of events. The monster grabs him by the edge of his jacket while the guy tries to figure out what to do next. The gamer doesn't waste a minute, starting to swing his knife at the monster's hand so that he finally lets go of the brown-eyed man. The young man quickly closes the window after he managed to harm the zombie. The hero is clearly scared. Harry tries to catch his breath, but is prevented from doing so by a sudden skill notification. The brown-haired man then realizes that this is not just a notification window, but a skill that was triggered because of this zombie that he injured. The hero starts learning the skill he got after fighting the monster again. This skill turns him into a bait for 10 minutes, but he gets more experience. Blue-Eyed resolutely takes the hammer into his hands, intending to test this skill in practice right now. The weather outside accurately describes the horror that is happening in the world. Red clouds from the sunset filled the sky. Suddenly, someone began knocking on the main character's front door with all their might, so loudly that the sound could be heard throughout the house. Harry opens the front door, on the threshold of which stands another zombie, which makes fresh flesh. The brown-haired man immediately hits the monster on the head with a hammer, collecting a combo for the skill he acquired not long ago. The hero continues to hit the monster on the head, and blood begins to spurt around from the young man's blows. Blue Eyes opens the front door again to get rid of the zombies, thus increasing the bonuses from the skill again. The young man then smashes the pot on the monster's head with such force that the pot breaks on the zombie's head. Harry doesn't waste a minute, continuing to smash monsters' heads, collecting combos for the skill. The hero does not stop his killing spree, collecting as many as 5 provocations in a very short time. The brown-haired man keeps repeating and repeating the next one, without stopping killing zombies. Even the audience is amazed by his skill. We are shown a picture of a year in which the main character has already killed a bunch of monsters, apologizing in advance to his parents for the mess. The hero checks his skill again, noting that it will work for another minute. The brown-haired man is a little disappointed that he managed to kill only 7 monsters. Then the blue-eyed man hears some rustling in the kitchen, again suspecting that it might be a zombie. The gamer decides to continue his combo to get the most out of it, carefully walking into the kitchen. The audience continues to mock the hero, but the young man's hands are covered in blood, which makes the scene a little scary. The guy sees cans of tuna on the table. I notice that a few are missing. He becomes wary. Under the table, Harry notices a frightened man. The hero himself is standing covered in blood and also holding a hammer in his hands, which is also stained with blood. We are then shown someone in the kitchen saying something delicious while stirring a dish in a frying pan. We see the back of the man who was hiding under the main character's table. I wonder why the stranger is cooking for him. The main character sits at the table and patiently waits for what the stranger will cook for him. The audience calls him crazy. Blue Eyes suddenly calls the stranger his brother, then asks himself if he can even call the guy that. Shayton remembers all those he had to fight with, saying that he would eat anything. The gamer also lets the guy know that if something threatens his safety, the young man will not stand aside. But the stranger does not pay much attention to the protagonist's conversations, telling the young man to eat. Harry involuntarily blushes at this gesture, while the audience is perplexed by this turn of events. The young man admits that he worked as a cook before the zombie apocalypse began. The brown-haired man blames the long-haired man for having to fight so many zombies that the former cook brought. We are shown how the guy apologized to the gamers for sneaking into the young man's house and bringing zombies. The hero admits that the former chef really cooks well after saying that he will soon leave home. The long-haired man is a little surprised by this, but then invites the blue-eyed man to continue his journey with him. The former cook says that the evacuation point is located near his place of work, and Shayton will be able to find out enough information there. While eating what his new friend had prepared, Harry thought that he knew nothing about the place the young man was talking about. Blue Eyes thinks that his new acquaintance is an NPC who will guide him further along the story. The hero agrees to the cook's offer, learning that his name is Chester, and Chester himself agrees that the brown-haired man will go with him. Harry suggests starting to pack for the school where the evacuation point is located, to which the long-haired man agrees. The gamer mentions the bike his friend arrived on, but the cook says he abandoned the vehicle when he was being pursued. The protagonist prepays to ride a bike, but then the couple will need to take something. Chester agrees, But before that, he decides to check the area for zombies, while the brown-haired man goes in the other direction. The gamer puts the bloody hammer he used not long ago into his bag. While packing their gear, Blue Eyes hears something outside their parents' house. The sound gets louder, and the brown-haired man twitches from the excessively loud sound, starting to worry about his comrade. Breaking out in a cold sweat, Harry runs outside, realizing that it is Chester's cry. Something has clearly happened to him. When he goes outside, the hero is overcome with silent horror. At first, he cannot move while standing still. We are shown a huge monster trying to eat the cook, pushing him into its mouth as the guy screams. Blue-Eyed still can't get over the shock, asking himself what's going on here. Long-Hair desperately calls out to Harry so that he can somehow help him, but the monster brings him closer and closer to its mouth. A stream of thoughts is spinning in the brown-haired man's head. He doesn't know how exactly he can help his friend. The audience says that the young man urgently needs to do something, and realizing this, the hero takes off. The protagonist takes the bicycle, heading in the opposite direction from the monster, noticing that the long-haired one is no longer screaming. The brown-haired man turns around to look at the monster as he hurries to escape from it. But the boy's skill, provocation works on the huge monster, causing the monster's gaze to be directed only at the boy. Noticing this, the blue-eyed man picks up speed, starting to pedal his bike more and more actively. Then we see the giant running after the brown-haired guy very quickly, which leaves the guy in shock and covered in sweat. Harry keeps speeding up, realizing that his life depends on it. The young man doesn't know how to fight this monster. Suddenly, the blue-eyed man notices on his way the bike that Chester spoke about in his story. The hero realizes that this is his friend's bike, after which two more zombies standing nearby react to the skill. Blue Eyes drops his bike and starts reaching for the bike, hoping the keys are still in it. Pulling the handle that controls the gas, the brown-haired man realizes that the engine is still running, to his happiness. Harry runs away from all the monsters that are chasing him. The audience also comments on this as not the best act. The brown-haired man is racing at full speed, but the huge monster is not leaving him. The young man wants to get rid of the giant as soon as possible. The protagonist remembers Chester again, trying to get away from the monster as quickly as possible. But the giant is getting closer and closer to the gamer, leaving him with almost no chance of salvation, moving faster and faster. We then see everyone evacuating to the elementary school. Just like the long-haired guy was talking about, people are clearly scared. The man grabs the policeman by the sleeve. They say that Chester has not returned yet. Probably it is his boss. The police officer assumes that the guy is already dead and asks citizens to hide inside as quickly as possible. The boss is clearly on edge, he starts shouting, begging the cop to wait at least a little longer. One of the workers tells the man that it would be better to go inside because it would be better for everyone. Then we see a bike that used to belong to the long-haired guy pull up to the school. The workers and the police officer turn their attention to the boom from the motorcycle, turning towards the noise. A brown-haired man appears before us, who stops right in front of the entire crowd of people. The boss understands that this is his worker's bike, but he does not see Chester himself behind it. Blue-Eyed is sweating from being chased and is looking for shelter, which he finally found. A group of people standing near the school gathered around the object that the main character brought with him on a leash. The citizens try to figure out what it is, assuming it's a corpse, while the brown-haired man looks askance at the same object. The gamer gets off his bike as the commentators once again make fun of him, calling him an attention seeker. The boss asks the blue-eyed man where Chester is. Harry is surprised that the man knows his comrade. Then the young man announces that the boy is dead. The man breaks out in a cold sweat, not believing his words. The brown-haired man replies that he himself is a little busy and will not be able to answer all the questions that the man has. The hero asks who is in charge, and the policeman comes out of his stupor, incoherently saying something. Then the head of the transport security department himself comes out to the guy, saying his name, Leon. The protagonist introduces himself, then the head of the department says that he is impressed by the monster's finger. The brown-haired man is surprised that Leon already knows about the monster, but the man doesn't want to talk about it anymore because the giant killed many of his comrades. But the gray-haired man still asks what exactly happened to this giant who frightened him so much. Blue-Eyed firmly and confidently says that he was able to deal with it on his own. The head of the department, as well as the entire crowd behind him, are in shock that the guy was able to deal with the giant on his own. We are then transported to the past, where the monster is chasing the hero, who at this point offers a deal to the audience. Harry talks about trying to kill the giant, while the audience is shocked that they are offered a deal. Blue Eyes turns to face the monster, sweating from being chased for so long. Afterwards, the young man smiles mysteriously, saying that he had put his life on the line, apparently, for the deal. The giant picks up his pace. He's already tired of running after the guy. The monster wants to deal with him as quickly as possible. But the figure trips over a lamppost, crashing into it with all its severity, not noticing the obstacles. The monster itself is too angry to pay attention to the fact that there are any obstacles in its path. He continues to trample the asphalt with his big feet, indifferent to the pain. Harry realizes that the giant is simply following him blindly, while the boy tries with all his might to break away from him. Blue-Eyed asks the audience to do a favor in exchange for the guy killing the monster. As the chase continues, the audience ponders the protagonist's offer and is not eager to do him a favor. The brown-haired man offers a condition. Either he kills the monster and the audience does him a favor, or the young man dies. The audience still agrees to the hero's bet. Even the user with the nickname is the only one in the case. Covered in a cold sweat, the gamer smiles as he looks at the comments, filling with determination. After which, Harry accelerates hard, approaching the tunnel on his bike, trying to implement his plan. The monster doesn't pay attention, but instead looks at the huge arch that stands right in front of him and runs after the hero. Shaitan, already confident of his victory, tells the audience that they will have to keep their promise. Even when the arch is right in front of the giant's forehead, he continues to ignore it. We then see a shot of the monster flying back, causing blood to spurt out around him. The giant crashes into the arch, his body flying through the air, blood everywhere, which belongs to the monster. We are again transported to the actions that are happening now, and the brown-haired man says that he will tell the crowd about the details later. All the people standing around the blue-eyed man are in shock, as is the head of the department himself, who is truly amazed. But the man says that he must first check the boy for infection on his body. People are rebelling, saying that the savior must be let in because he killed a huge monster. The gray-haired man agrees, pointing Harry to one of the lines where he should stand for verification. While the police were examining the gamer, spectators discussed his victory over the monster. The main character was checked. Everything was fine with him, but then a man stopped him, calling him to him. It's Chester's boss asking if the boy is really dead, clearly worried about him. Harry reaffirms his words, after which the man again says that the long-haired man worked for him. The hero makes excuses. The boss asks about the bike, how the young man was able to find it, whether he stole the vehicle. The brown-haired man assures the man that he did not steal the bike, squeezing his hands in his own, trying to gain his trust. Blue-Eyed says that Chester really cooked great, while the audience laughs at him. The man became emotional from such warm words and almost began to cry from such flattering words. Having finished talking to him, the gamer turns around, finally getting ready to leave for the evacuation zone. In front of him, the brown-haired man sees the school that the former cook had spoken about and which he had not known about before. We see a bright blue stripe on the asphalt in front of the school entrance, which the boy is about to step on. Suddenly, Harry is informed that he has completed training and that he can increase his chances of survival. The brown-haired man is surprised by this, after which the notification conveys good luck to him as the last survivor. Blue-Eyed turns his head. Was all this just training? He went through so much. The main character goes deeper into the building, accompanied by comments from viewers who cannot believe it. The guy opens one of the school doors that he comes across on his way with one sharp movement. The gamer says that he wants to talk to the only one, standing in front of an open office. The audience does not understand what the young man is talking about, trying to find out what is going on and what is happening in general. With a determined expression, Harry reminds that this user agreed to do him a favor. The user under the nickname is the only one who asks if the hero wants to talk to him. His identity is a mystery. The brown-haired man answers positively. The guy demands to tell him about something that should have been told earlier. The rest of the spectators rebelled because the blue-eyed man does not respect them, after which the only one asks them to calm down. The hero breaks out in sweat, saying that he doesn't understand what's going on at all, and the audience calls him an idiot again. Covered in a cold sweat, the blue-eyed man blames his adaptation to this turn of events on the streamer instinct. The audience continues to vigorously discuss the terms of the game, because if Harry wins, he will be able to rebuild the world as he sees fit. The protagonist again wants as many explanations as possible, but the only one says that now the young man should be concerned about the world in which he now finds himself. The only one explains the rules of this game, saying that it is a game layered on reality, and the brown-haired one is the only player. Blue-eyed is in a state of shock, realizing that he is the only one who can communicate with the audience. The gamer continues to ask about how this game works. Chester was just us, as he suspected. The only one says that if Harry can't complete this game, then everything will remain as it is now. The brown-haired man begins to worry even more, breaking out in a cold sweat, asking who this one is. The hero turns to the side, asking who he is now, someone like a god. The boy sees his reflection in the classroom door, which he opened not long ago, trying to get a closer look at the silhouette. Focusing his gaze, the young man sees himself reflected in his eyes, clearly in shock. The user with the nickname is the only one who makes fun of the main character, calling him funny. In the reflection of his eyes, the brown-haired man sees his own face, sees how lost he is. The only one says that before, all the characters in the games he played asked the boy about this. The mysterious user tells the brown-haired man that he likes the guy, so he has nothing to be afraid of. The only one tells the guy to fight with all his might, which makes the blue-eyed guy break out in a cold sweat. Harry suddenly realizes that he can use a window of information that was previously unavailable to him. Opening the information window, the blue-eyed man learns that if the police chief died, then the school will not be safe. Then we are shown the school itself, and a huge number of people rushing to evacuate as quickly as possible. We are shown a fence that guarantees people at least some safety from external creatures. The brown-haired man, behind the entire crowd, begins to look around, like the rest of the people who came to the evacuation point. We see a group of men building something that vaguely resembles a huge fence or shield. Most people help the police chief restore order to the school square by clearing out most of the things. The hubbub begins. It is very difficult to manage such a large number of people, especially in such a tense situation. The police are trying to organize the crowd by any means possible, and so far they have succeeded. The main character does not understand how the police chief could be in danger in such a crowd. Then the food distribution begins, and one of the police officers asks everyone to line up to get their portion. The brown-haired man turns to the call of one of the policemen, who calls him to get himself something to eat. The young man says he is not hungry and heads towards one of the police officers who is doing security. The man is clearly not in a very friendly mood. He asks if the hero has any problems. Blue Eyes firmly states that he needs to get to the police chief right now. The man is surprised by such a statement. He begins to treat the gamer more and more suspiciously. The brown-haired man asks what's wrong, but the policeman can't answer. The young man himself finds it strange. Harry realizes that something is going on in the main building, while the audience also suspects the policeman of something foul. The protagonist asks the man to contact the head of the transport security department because the young man can help them. The policeman listened to him, then started talking on the radio with his boss, explaining to him the situation that had arisen. The man breaks out in a cold sweat, asking if the brown-haired man is going to kill monsters, to which the gamer answers yes. The policeman continues to get more and more tense, saying that they need people like Harry. The man tells the brown-haired man that the police chief has disappeared and the team has already organized a search for him. Blue Eyes asks why they didn't organize a search earlier, to which the police respond that they didn't have the time or people for it. The hero asks to inspect the premises where the police chief used to be. The policeman himself calls it a temporary office. The gamer says that it would be better for them to start working together since they are not hiding anything from each other. The man doesn't really trust the hero, which we can read on his face, but the brown-haired man himself says that every second counts. Blue-Eyed asks to provide him with all the information on the case, since he is now also involved in it, after which the man reluctantly agrees. Then we are shown that very temporary office, the sign of which is stained with blood. The gamer enters the room, examining it. The office itself looks pretty decent for a temporary one. The protagonist asks his viewers to help him if they find something, but does not immediately refuse. The young man's attention was drawn to a map that was hanging on one of the boards inside the office. The guy then looks at the main table, on which there is also another map of the area. The brown-haired man sees a marked place on the map and decides that this is a clue. The gamer intends to go there. While looking at the map, he hears footsteps behind him. Someone is standing behind the office doors. The hero is clearly tense. The young man turns sharply at the steps, asking who exactly came to the main office. The mysterious figure says that he knows that the protagonist is looking for the police chief. The brown-haired man himself tenses up from such directness, directing his gaze at the door, after which the figure opens the doors themselves. A large man enters the main office and extends his hand to the blue-eyed man, talking about his abilities. The man introduces himself as Joe. The guy also says his name, and then they shake hands. Suddenly, Big Joe's grip becomes too strong, so much so that his hands shake with the tension. Harry himself also did not expect this, tensing up from such a strong grip of the policeman. The man looks menacingly at the brown-haired man, asking if he found anything suspicious. The hero breaks out in a cold sweat. The audience is undermining him, but the gamer himself does not understand what is happening. Suddenly there is a loud scream, to which Joe does not react in any way, and the young man is very alarmed. Blue-eyed follows the scream, throwing open the door behind which stands one of the policemen, who is also shocked. The man points at the woman, calling her infected. The lady herself looks like a zombie. A brawl ensues, with zombies attempting to bite humans to satisfy their appetite while citizens attempt to escape. All the people are covered in cold sweat from fear, trying to save their lives from the bloodthirsty monsters. We see that even the police have been infected with the virus and have become zombies, so now no one is safe. The protagonist is shocked that zombies are found in such a crowd. The audience says that he screwed up. Blue-eyed takes out from the bosom of his jacket a hammer, which he had been using not so long ago. While all the people are heading towards the exit, the brown-haired man goes into the thick of things to help people escape from the creatures. The police are also panicking because they can't shoot at the zombies while they are in a crowd of people. The gamer wields his hammer skillfully, telling the police to grab their batons if they can't use their guns. The brunette repeats that they need to take the batons, and only after the second time do the men follow his instructions. Then we see Chester's boss, who is also ready to help the protagonist in protecting people. His employee tries to dissuade the man, as it is too dangerous to fight a crowd of zombies. But the boss doesn't care, because he is burning with the desire to avenge his dead employee. The protagonist continues to hit the zombies with his hammer, hitting them more and more. The man wonders why the brown-haired man simply beats up the monsters but doesn't finish them off. The boss breaks out in a cold sweat, starting to wonder if the guy has some hidden agenda. Throwing these thoughts aside, the man finishes off each zombie that the blue-eyed man knocked out. The police listened to the hero and, taking batons, began to hit the monsters from all sides, smashing their heads. The brown-haired man also doesn't lag behind, dealing damage to every monster he meets on his way with a hammer. And Chester's boss finishes off the creatures behind him with his frying pan, trying to avenge his favorite employee. People are trying to escape, but the main gates are closed and the police themselves are not letting citizens pass them. Blue Eyes understands that the police themselves were involved in this, and the zombies did not get in from outside. The brown-haired man is angry about his current situation, realizing that someone intentionally released the zombies. The audience is also puzzled. They think it was Joe, but the hero himself thinks that one of the policemen has gone crazy. Harry puts his hammer back in his jacket and resolves to find the police chief as soon as possible. Shayton understands that he can only trust civilians now, so he instructs Chester's boss to keep an eye on the cops. Blue-eyed finally warns the man not to join the search party looking for the boss. The man is clearly puzzled by the gamer's instructions, breaking out in a cold sweat and becoming very tense. And while the hero is running towards the exit, Joe catches his eye, asking where he is going. The gray-haired man also blocks his way, saying that he should stay with them. But the main character brushes off the police. The young man has no time for empty talk. Joe is clearly unhappy that the police were unable to keep the hero under their supervision. We see empty streets and several delivery bikes standing close to each other. Harry takes one of the bikes, heading off somewhere as the audience laughs again at his actions. The brown-haired man resolutely heads towards the point he saw on the map in the chief's main office. The gamer leaves the scooter behind him. He arrives in a forest, in the middle of which there is a small structure that looks like a barn. We are shown a close-up of the building itself, which appears to be made of metal. Looking into the windows, the blue-eyed man realizes that there is no one inside, which seems a little suspicious to him. The hero notices traces on the ground, running his hand over them. He understands that there were dozens of people here. Harry wonders if they were even people, as the audience laughs at him again. The brown-haired man then asks the audience why he didn't find any more supply boxes like he did at the beginning of the game. The audience is surprised by his question because they thought he hated supply boxes, which makes the hero very surprised. The gamer continues to be surprised while viewers mention that the boxes are purchased with money. Viewers continue to talk about the mechanics, saying that the game contains paid content. One of the commentators asks the hero to go into the chat and scroll to the beginning to figure it out. Blue-Eyed does just that, scrolling through the chat for a long time, then finding the dollar icon in the lower left corner. The young man receives a pop-up window stating that the sponsor chat has been disabled. The guy himself is a little shocked that there is a donation and at least some in-game currency here. The main character turns on the sponsor chat because the viewers themselves are also interested in this function. Then the only one, as the most devoted fan, donates him the first yen, surprised that it really works. Harry is still in shock from this feature, when suddenly he receives another donation for 1 yen. The hero finally shows his emotions by asking the audience why they didn't tell him about such an important function. The gamer opens the structure, carefully pulling the door handle, clearly wary. Entering the building, the brown-haired man finds himself in a very ordinary room, while the audience laughs at him. The audience thinks that Harry is offended by them, but the young man himself does not even see any reason to be offended. Blue-Eyed breaks out in a cold sweat because the audience really hadn't explained anything to him up until this point. The guy then turns his attention to the house itself, which is arranged a little strangely. Suddenly, a zombie climbs out of the window, already preparing to infect the main character. The brown-haired man is very scared of the monster in the window, and the provocation skill also works on the creature. There is more than one zombie outside the window, which makes the young man even more scared, and he accidentally starts swearing. Harry suspected that the footprints near the house belonged to zombies. The audience laughs at his vivid reaction. We are shown a long shot of the house from the outside. There are more and more zombies, and everyone is being provoked. The brown-haired man doesn't waste time and already smashes the head of one of the monsters with his boot. The zombies are a little scared by such a sudden movement, but the provocation works on them all. The gamer begins to destroy his creatures with a hammer, starting by hitting them on the head. The audience also helps the blue-eyed man, warning him of danger, and with the help of comments, the hero avoids danger. The provocation works on 14 monsters already, and Harry himself receives a huge increase in physical abilities. The young man goes out into the open, starting to kill the creatures around him one by one. Hearing a suspicious sound behind him, the guy turns around and sees a truck hitting the monsters. The main character, with a cheeky grin on his face, says that it was the elementary school police officer who let the zombies in. The man stops in front of the gamer while the blue-eyed man provokes him to get out of the car. At first, due to the bright light of the headlights, we see only a dark silhouette that does not resemble anyone. We then see Joe breaking out in a cold sweat from the fact that the guy was able to deal with so many monsters. A man watches from the front seat of a car as the blue-eyed man deals with a zombie, amazed at his skill. Joe says he knew it would end like this. He waits on the gas pedal, trying to crush the boy. Harry is in complete shock because he did not expect that the man would actually crush him. Joe, with a maniacal smile, continues to press on the gas, clearly pleased with the outcome of events that are happening now. The man crushed the body against a tree. Did our main character really give up so quickly? But after Joe looked closer, he noticed that the diluted body on the tree did not belong to the blue-eyed one. The man breaks out in a cold sweat, clearly starting to get nervous because he can't see where exactly the hero has gone. Harry knocks on the policeman's window. The guy is covered in blood and demands that he open the window as quickly as possible. Joe starts to get even more nervous when suddenly the gamer smashes the car window with all his might. Through the broken glass, the boy tries to grab the policeman's hand, while the man himself tries to get rid of him. Suddenly, the purple-eyed man shoots straight at the young man, but fortunately, he managed to dodge the bullet. The car starts up again and drives straight ahead towards all the zombies standing in front of it. The policeman is clearly in a daze. Joe drives, pressing the gas pedal with all his might in order to get away from the hero as quickly as possible. The man looks through the glass to see if he is being followed, but a brown-haired man is already running after him. Violet-eyed is surprised at how fast the main character runs, about 80 kilometers per hour. Harry runs after the policeman with a furious grimace and a hammer. The audience laughs at his facial expression. Joe calls the brown-haired man crazy, breaking out in a cold sweat and decides to see it through to the end. A man drives at full speed towards a whole pile of metal boxes. What is he up to? The violet-eyed man expertly goes around all the metal boxes, trying to break away from the boy. Harry is already quite tired, but he does not lag behind, saying the name of the policeman with a hammer in his hands. But the man doesn't give in so easily. He turns around and presses a button on the remote control. Something is about to happen. Suddenly, hordes of zombies burst out of the metal boxes trying to bite the hero. While crowds of monsters approach the blue-eyed man, the audience discusses everything that is happening. The guy is offered to just run, while his skill has been activated and now 40 monsters want to attack him. Joe already feels his victory over the brown-haired man, continuing to smile slyly and watch what is happening. The man leaves the scene, leaving the protagonist to deal with the whole mess on his own. But the hero does not despair. On the contrary, the brown-haired man with a self-confident smile says that he can deal with the monsters in 2 minutes, while his physical abilities increase by 500%. Without wasting any time, Harry already shoves a hammer into the mouth of one of the zombies, breaking through the top of his head. The monster flies away due to how much force the young man put into it. Blood spurts everywhere. The brown-haired man becomes more and more angry, not stopping for a minute, continuing to kill creatures. We then see the figure of the protagonist covered in blood, towering over a pile of dead zombies. Blue Eyes is only afraid that his skill time is running out, and the number of monsters is not decreasing. Then the young man notices Joe's car, who apparently has not yet left the scene. First, he decides to deal with the purple-eyed one, and only then with the rest of the zombie crowd. The hero runs at full speed towards the police car, wanting to catch up with him as quickly as possible. The man tries to get as far away from the brown-haired man as possible because he is a direct danger to Joe. A police officer on the radio says that the police chief needs to be transported from the elementary school to another location, but suddenly Harry's hand is next to him again. Blue-eyed grabs him by the collar, demanding that he repeat what the man just said about the police chief. Joe, without wasting time, reaches for his gun, but the protagonist intercepts his hand with his death grip. The spectators use their comments to tell the young man how to act. The guy grabs the man's other hand, squeezing it tightly in his own, asking the policeman if he counts it as his victory. Violet-eyed is terrified, breaking out in a cold sweat from fear, screaming the main character's name in fear. The hero, with a maniacal smile, says that he is a streamer, and his viewers really love such spectacles. Harry kicks Joe out of the driver's seat and into the seat next to him, saying that he's going to drive now. The brunette coolly says that the man is only complicating everything, while the viewers are in shock. Blue Eyes finds handcuffs. The audience says to handcuff Joe so that he definitely can't escape. To which the hero grins, refusing their introduction, saying that at this rate he will lock his ankles. Turning back, the gamer notices a crowd of zombies that have already managed to reach the car. But Harry still listens to the advice of the audience and clasps his wrist with the policeman just in case. The zombies turn at the sound of the car horn. There are already more than 40 of them, and they are ready to kill. The guy slams the monsters' bodies into the hood of a police car at full speed. The brown-haired man smiles resolutely again, and the young man says how he didn't realize before that the police chief was already at school. We are shown the gamer's memory of the information stating that the police chief was already at school. Blue Eyes understands that he shouldn't have come to the forest. It's a waste of time and energy. The protagonist is suddenly surprised by something while driving on the way to elementary school. On the road, he sees a teddy bear in a scarf, who walks along the road and turns around to look at the car. Harry is very scared. He doesn't understand what it is and starts screaming in surprise. The guy accidentally knocks over a toy, which flies away from the car at a high speed, flipping over in the air. The polar bear cub is thrown to the ground. He looks completely pitiful and harmless at first glance. The brunette is in complete shock at what he just saw, asking the audience what exactly it was. The teddy bear in the red scarf gets up from the ground, which makes the blue-eyed man even more shocked. Blue-eyed stopped the car completely from shock, sitting in a silent pause from shock and surprise. We see the teddy bear looking straight into the blue-eyed guy's eyes while the guy himself is still in shock. After a brief moment of eye contact, the adorable monster runs off into the forest. The protagonist does not understand what kind of monster it was. The only one explains that this monster shows the location of chests with supplies. Learning about this, Harry perked up because another box of supplies would not hurt him. Then we hear Joe start mumbling something in his half-sleep. Is the man really going to wake up soon? The gamer, like the viewers, notices this. Comments begin to pop up about what the brown-haired man will do right now. Blue-Eyed offers his beloved subscribers two options. Either the man continues to sleep, or they disable the policeman with a taser again. Viewers choose the first. It was an illusion of choice, and Harry decides to knock the man out with a taser again. The policeman finally wakes up, calling the hero a son of a bitch. Indeed, the guy is too cruel. After disabling Joe for a while longer, the protagonist gets out of the car in search of a teddy bear. We see little plush bear paws rushing towards the supply chest. The young man also tries to keep up with the plush one, following him closely as he walks through the forest. After some time, they both actually find themselves in front of a chest of supplies. Opening the chest costs 5 yen, which is quite expensive for a blue-eyed guy, especially since the box probably won't contain any weapons due to its appearance. Brown-haired is hesitant about opening the chest as the commentators tell him to get back in the car. The hero relies on his luck and still opens the box. The audience is clearly surprised by his actions. As a result, the chest contains an ordinary red lantern. The gamer is clearly disappointed with this outcome. Harry breaks out in a cold sweat, and the audience themselves laugh at the guy's choice, since they told him not to open it. Blue Eyes decides to return to school, but still keeps the lantern for himself, hiding it in the pocket of his jacket. We are shown in elementary school. The brown-haired man himself hopes that Chester's boss was able to survive this mess. Then it really shifts to the police officers discussing how exactly the zombies could have broken through. The men are still cleaning up the mess that was created when the monsters appeared. The head of the department, Leon, approaches the police, confident that the issue is not about checking citizens for infection. Blue-Eyed asks the guys to calm down themselves and calm the citizens themselves. Another policeman approaches the group of men and asks for a private conversation with the head of the department. Leon tenses, turning towards the voice, already prepared for an unpleasant conversation. A man called the police officer and demanded that he move his boss to another location. The gray-haired man himself turns out to be not as pleasant a man as he seemed at the first meeting. Then we see the head of the department's memories of the main character's first appearance. He didn't trust the guy right away. Leon asks the policeman to convey that he will deal with the boss himself. It turns out that the entire conversation between the cops was overheard by Chester's boss, who is in complete shock. The fat man breaks out in a cold sweat. The man thinks that there are 3 enemies. The boss waits for the police to disperse so that he can finally emerge from his hiding place as quickly as possible. We then see the fat man running away from the shelter, rushing to tell everything to the main character. A group of police officers are surprised to see the genie that Joe took pull up to the elementary school. The car is already parked, and the cops come closer with flashlights, checking who is in the car. A man in uniform notices a broken window, through which Joe is visible, who is unconscious. The story then shifts to a fat man running up the stairs as fast as he can. The man wants to tell Harry everything as quickly as possible, believing that the police have gone crazy. Chester's boss picks up the pace. He tries not to waste a minute because the situation is tense. Suddenly, a hand appears in front of the man's face, seeming to stop him. It turns out to be Harry, who has finally returned to the elementary school to find his boss. The man and the boy begin their conversation, and we are shown the school from the outside. The brown-haired man looks very calm. His actions are focused and quiet, so as not to attract attention. The fat man breaks down and starts screaming. The man asks if the blue-eyed man knew about this, to which the young man asks him to calm down. The boss says that the police chief is now in the basement and the entire police force is involved. The hero is very surprised that the man has already found out everything without his help. His gaze freezes. The action moves to the basement. Harry stands at the half-open doors, eavesdropping on the conversation. We see the gray-haired man beating up the police chief while talking to the man. Leon takes a stun gun out of his pocket, and the audience compares the blue-eyed man with the blue-eyed man himself. The brown-haired man quietly creeps closer and closer to the entrance, and the commentators again ask him personal questions. One of the viewers says that if the gamer goes into the basement right now, he will transfer yen to the young man. The guy is clearly inspired by this. After this comment, Harry bursts into the room. Leon immediately understands that this is the main character. And the brown-haired man really does punch the policeman's back with his 2 feet, just as the viewer ordered him to do. The subscriber kept his word and donated 1 yen to the guy, but the hero himself looks shabby. Leon is thrown back towards the storage room, and he also struggles to get up from the floor after such a blow. The man doesn't waste a second and immediately reaches for his pistol, which is in his holster. During the shot, the guy manages to intercept the policeman's hand, so he misses the target. The brown-haired man smiles slyly again, knowing that Leon clearly underestimates his abilities. Blue-Eyed shouts that he is the humanity that the policeman himself has lost. Even on the verge of passing out, the man continues to fight, refusing to give Harry the gun. We hear the sound of gunshots without bullets. We are shown the ceiling, proving that the gun does not fire. The head of the department is sweating and nervous because his life is hovering between life and death. The man looks at his gun as the brown-haired man swings his right hand to strike. Blue Eyes hits Leon in the face with all his might, saying that this is Chester, who was killed by monsters. The main character's second strike is for the police chief, who was bullied by the officers. The third blow the guy makes for himself and for the efforts he put in to complete the mission. The police chief gradually comes to his senses. The young man notices this, focusing attention on the man. The gamer demands that the head of the department give him the keys to the handcuffs right now. Justice must prevail. The man tries to reach for the stun gun without being noticed in order to disable Harry. But suddenly the brown-haired man himself hits the beaten policeman's body with a stun gun, causing him to writhe in pain. The gamer continues to smile smugly. The guy is confident in his victory. He also has aces up his sleeve. Blue Eyes again stuns the head of the department right in the chest, asking him to say hello to Joe. The audience encourages the brown-haired man to end it already, to which the main character says that it is time for someone to appear. Suddenly, the gamer takes out a gun from the pocket of his white jacket, saying that it is time for the final cleanup. The young man moves away from the dead body of the policeman, heading in the opposite direction from him. Then the blue-eyed man stands near the open door, pointing a gun at the entrance. The audience does not understand what exactly he is doing. Suddenly, another policeman enters the room, but his head is immediately pierced by a bullet. We see Harry with a cold look. There is not a drop of regret in him. He did it quickly and without unnecessary noise. The brunette does not regret his actions. All the viewers are shocked by his actions. They get goosebumps. The gamer will immediately be donated 4 yen, which is what he achieved with his unconventional behavior. Blue-Eyed says out loud that Leon needs to be dealt with quickly, and the audience supports him. The hero openly mocks the leader's position, slowly approaching the man. The gray-haired man asks to wait, to which the guy brazenly replies that he will do it quickly. The guy is openly playing with the man, aiming at different parts of his body. Apparently, he really enjoys it. Then the brown-haired man takes aim at the blue-eyed man's head, who begins to shake with fear. Harry does not pity the man, mentioning to the man all the times he tried to shoot the boy. Then the gamer receives another donation of 1 yen, and he thanks his viewers for it. Looking at the face of the main character, the man understands that he has no choice but to be shot. Leon manages to wet his pants from fear, causing the audience to laugh at his hopeless situation. Even the hero himself is disappointed with this outcome of events, because now the cool policeman looks pathetic. We see the fat man trying to explain something to the rest of the police. The protagonist leads the police chief out of the elementary school, holding his lifeless body. Shaitan explains the whole situation, saying that everyone who captured the boss is tied up and is in the basement. Blue Eyes leaves everything to the part of the police who are not involved in the conspiracy, looking at them from the outside. The gamer looks at the sky, which shimmers with beautiful shades of blue and purple, and he can finally breathe a sigh of relief. With his voice, the young man calls out to the information window, looking at the beautiful free sky. The guy even flinches in surprise because the information window appears too quickly. The window tells him that it is not safe to stay in one place for too long, so Harry will have to leave. New apartments appear before us, which at first glance look quite cozy from the outside. The hero lies on a futon in the middle of the room. The guy is glad that he can finally relax. We see how grateful the other police officers are to the main character for finding the boss. The brown-haired man decides to settle in this camp, but he continues to remember about the window. The young man cannot stay here for long. Blue Eyes ponders the proposal itself, considering what long-term means. The viewers try to help the gamer in some way, but they themselves don't know much. Harry realizes that the commentators have already given him all the clues they themselves possess, so they are not saying anything useful. The brunette takes his backpack with him, gets up from the futon, and heads somewhere. The direction is what the audience is asking about. It was already getting dark, and the sky had turned a beautiful crimson color by the time the blue-eyed man got to the car. The police chief calls the young man over, asking if he is leaving, and the gamer turns around at the sound of his voice. The guy isn't planning on leaving yet, but if he did, the policeman would equip him with supplies. The man is sincerely grateful to the hero for saving him, because it was not the easiest task. We are shown past events, how the brown-haired man is perplexed by the fact that the boss only wants to kick out the traitors. Both men stand behind the barn, talking about the future fate of those who tried to kill them. The boss doesn't want to kill them in front of those who considered them his allies. It's too cruel. The hero proposes an adventure with a sly smile on his face, which even leaves the police chief in shock. We see the guy driving the car speeding while the man in the front seat looks more confused. Leon and Joe are tied behind the car, running as fast as they can to avoid falling onto the asphalt. The brunette doesn't listen, adding gas to the car more and more, clearly enjoying it. It turns out that a crowd of zombies is also running after the traitors, trying to tear the men apart. The zombies run after the men at full speed, and they still manage to bite Joe on the shoulder. Harry goes completely crazy, accelerating the car to 60 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, the brown-haired man brakes sharply, leaving no chance for survival for the men. Blue Eyes turns to check on the police, but their ropes have been cut by the zombies. While the hero smiles maniacally, the police chief looks at him with complete horror on his face. Remembering this, the man involuntarily begins to tense up. It's better not to joke with Harry. Harry asks to prepare supplies in advance if they are willing to provide them to him. The boss understands and says that he will be given a car with supplies, but the young man will have to say goodbye to everyone. The brunette checks the flashlight while in the car, turning it on and pointing the light upward. Then the blue-eyed man turns it off, asking into the air why this flashlight is needed at all. The audience is surprisingly understanding, saying that the gamer will be able to find a way out of any situation. Closing his eyes, the guy decides to rest a little after such a long day, to finally gather his strength. The brown-haired man finally falls asleep, closing his eyes, gradually plunging into the kingdom of Morpheus. But suddenly the guy's eyes widen, and there's a strange aura floating around everywhere that he doesn't like at all. The protagonist breaks out in a cold sweat and is surrounded by an ominous cold air. Blue Eyes checks his air conditioner for a moment, thinking that the problem is with it, but the unit is turned off. The brown-haired man looks through the rear-view glass at what is happening behind his car, and behind it there is a dark figure. It turns out to be a monster that looks like death. All the spectators are waiting for a shock. The monster rises from its feet, beginning to levitate, meaning that the creature is ready to attack. The hero jumps up, his gaze becomes wild. The young man has a premonition that something is wrong. Blue-eyed releases the handbrake to drive away as quickly as possible. Cursing loudly, Harry moves as fast as he can. The brunette hopes for his thanks, while some viewers support him and others laugh at the young man. The hero drives out of the school parking lot, almost running over the police, but they manage to get out of the way. Blue Eyes doesn't have time to say goodbye to his comrades, but now it's not as important as saving his own life. The gamer shouts at the viewers to warn him about this, to which they respond that anyone who spoils will be banned. The brown-haired man looks out the windshield again, but the dark figure is gone, and Harry thinks that he managed to break away. The skeleton appears next to the hero. The monster is already stretching its hands towards the guy to deal with him. The guy realizes that the monster can teleport, and that is why he did not see the dark figure in the mirror. Harry slams his foot down on the gas pedal as hard as he can, and things start to get really heated. The gamer screams hysterically that he is not afraid, but even the audience understands that he is incredibly scared. Commentators are trying to help their favorite streamer because they have already developed warm feelings for him. A few moments later, the monster is already right in front of the hood of the brown-haired man's car. The guy was so surprised that he lost control of the car and crashed into the nearest pole. The guy hits his head so hard that blood flows from the site of the blow. A terrifying monster is already following the broken car, and the skeleton is still not leaving the young man. Blue Eyes opens the car door, deciding to fight the creature one-on-one in a fair fight. Desperate, Harry tries shooting at the dark silhouette, but it doesn't seem to work. Brown-haired realizes that this really doesn't work and tries to escape from the skeleton by heading in the other direction. The gamer hid in a nearby building. The guy is trying to catch his breath from such a chase, while the audience discusses his escape. Sweat appears on the protagonist's face. Scarlet, hot blood runs from his head. He is clearly not in the best condition. The skeleton teleports right in front of the young man. An epic battle is looming, with no one knows how it will end. The monster is already attacking, opening its terrible mouth and moving towards the blue-eyed man with great speed. The hero was just waiting for this moment. He quickly takes out a flashlight from his jacket pocket, starting to shine it on the creature's face. The monster immediately covers his face from the rays of the flashlight. Apparently, he is really afraid of light. Harry then aims his gun and shoots the skeleton, which surprisingly works. The brown-haired man quickly climbs out of the building's window, provoking the monster to pursue him. The gamer receives a donation of 1 yen. A viewer with the nickname Advisor says that he is giving out money as a sign of condolence. The guy gets so angry at this remark that he doesn't notice the bike right in his path. A young man hits his knee on a bicycle, cursing the counselor as onlookers laugh at him. But one of the commentators warns the hero of the danger in time, which saves the brown-haired man's life. The gamer still holds tightly in one of his hands the gun that the police gave him. While running away, the guy shoots the skeleton again out of desperation because he doesn't know how to kill it. The bullets, surprisingly, actually hit the monster, piercing its head right through. Harry stopped in surprise, wondering why the bullets suddenly worked on the creature, since they had never affected him before. The gamer still does not understand the reason for this behavior, looks at his feet, thinking that perhaps this is the reason. The brown-haired man then notices a clear line on the ground through which the skeleton can neither pass nor teleport. The blue-eyed man finally understands the reason for such actions, starting to smile sarcastically and squint. The hero passes through a territory where a monster rules, and he cannot go beyond the border of his territory. The brown-haired man takes out his pistol again, aiming it at the creature, shouting that this is his last step. Another bullet does not go unnoticed. The monster gradually disappears from sight. Harry smiles confidently as he sends the monster to hell. He managed to survive this time, too. After the acting, the young man immediately switches off, apparently due to impotence, because fighting such a monster is difficult. He drops the gun from his hands, a bad sign. Anyone could be waiting for the young man in the new territory. The brown-haired man is trying to catch his breath, lying on the asphalt covered in sweat and blood, this time his own, unfortunately. The blue-eyed man turns his gaze to the side, once again encountering something familiar on the city streets. We see a mysterious dark alley from which a stream of light shines, as if someone is shining a flashlight. The light suddenly goes out and everything is painted in the dark shades of an ominous night, which is so scary. Then the light appears again. What could it be? It looks like a SOS signal and maybe someone is looking for someone. Harry becomes wary, standing with his back to the alley, reloading his gun as the onlookers try to figure out what it is. Having loaded a full drum of cartridges, the hero is ready for anything. The young man decides to first scout out the situation. It really was Morse code, as the brown-haired man himself says, masterfully handling the weapon. The audience supports the guy, telling him to go forward. We see sneakers, which means the owner of the flashlight is a person. Harry yells at the stranger that he needs to stop, to which the man yelps in surprise. The guy's gaze changes to a good-natured one. He is probably more surprised than frightened by what he sees in front of him. He sees a name on the badge, Yan. It turns out that this is a person, and also a schoolboy. Before us appears the figure of a short boy with short brown hair, brown eyes, and a thin build. The brown-eyed man asks if the hero is a policeman, to which the audience laughs at his question. The brunette asks if the guy is alone, and when he receives an affirmative answer, he asks for his flashlight. The main character does not stand on ceremony and asks for a lantern a second time, threatening with a gun. After receiving the flashlight, Harry demands the schoolboy's backpack, to which the audience calls him not a very good person. The boy tries to defend his supplies, but the brown-haired man is too assertive, especially since he has a gun. The brown-eyed guy only has a couple of cans of tuna, ham, and ramen, basically the same thing as the blue-eyed guy. The dark-haired man almost cries after this, finally asking to let him go because he has nothing else. But our main character was going to strip him bare, telling him to take off his clothes, too. Harry makes sure that the boy really does not have anything else with him, which clearly upsets the guy. Even after this, the schoolboy still asks the brown-haired man for help because he has nowhere else to go. The blue-eyed man looks at him with a piercing gaze, clearly not trusting the young man yet. While the boy is getting dressed, the guy asks him questions about how he was able to survive alone and also save supplies. The brown-haired man thinks that the weakling is some kind of bait. The hero cannot believe that the young man is here all alone. The protagonist asks his viewers to watch the expression on the brown-eyed man's face when the guy leaves. Blue Eyes says that they need to go their separate ways, taking the schoolboy's flashlight. Suddenly, the boy says that all his friends died instead of him. That is how he was able to survive. Clutching his backpack to his chest, the brown-eyed man cries, blaming himself for all the deaths of his friends because he is a coward. The audience conveys the boy's emotions, to which Harry begins to doubt his earlier words about the bait. The hero asks if this is true, to which the boy nods with tears in his eyes, because it was the pure truth. Harry says that Ian can go with him. The schoolboy cannot believe his words, asking again. Blue Eyes agrees to go further with him in all seriousness, because the young man did not lie about how he ended up here. Suddenly, the action moves forward. We see how the toad has already pierced 2 people with its tongue. We hear a schoolboy's piercing scream, to which the main character himself turns to understand what is going on. Ian runs as fast as he can from the giant, screaming that they need to get away from this place as quickly as possible. The main character screams hysterically about the whole situation, starting to blame Yan for it. But the boy has everything under control. He already has a plan. The young man insists that they run into the alley. The brown-haired man is clearly very nervous because of such a tense situation, but the brown-eyed man has everything under control. A giant runs after the boys at high speed, crashing into buildings while the schoolboy explains his plan. Chocolate Hair says that there can be no mistake because he is completely confident in his plan. Harry is surprised that his ward has already remembered the road and can navigate while the giant catches up. The heroes run up to the road where roadworks were taking place, but the monster almost grabbed the elder with its teeth. But suddenly the giant stumbles and his foot falls into a ledge with pipes that was not so far away. The gamer runs away from the monster's teeth as fast as he can until it falls completely into the hole. The giant finally falls from his feet, his head smashing through buildings, accompanied by his piercing screams. The heroes managed to lure the monster into a trap, which they were very happy about because they remained alive. Afterwards, the guys notice some kind of red appendage further down the street, similar to a tongue. Brown-Eyed warns Harry that he will need to dodge when he gives the signal. The boy gives a signal, and the gamer barely manages to dodge the tongue. Perhaps it is that toad. Suddenly, the toad's tongue pierces the giant's skull as he opens his mouth in agony. Blue-Eyed is clearly happy with this outcome of events, while Jan is in complete shock trying to come to his senses. The toad itself is also not happy with this outcome of events. It is covered in sweat. Apparently, it is also damaged. At this time, the measured monster grabbed the toothfish's tongue, trying to bite it off. The protagonist brings the young man to his senses by telling him that they need to run away as quickly as possible. The chocolate-haired man once again begins to lead the elder through the streets of the abandoned city. Shaitan says that his comrade is really cool. Apparently because of his good memory, he survived. But after a while, we see the heroes riding somewhere on a bike, and the older one is no longer so confident in the boy. The young man is still confident in his plan, while the protagonist has strong doubts, but follows him. The boy says that there is very little left to the destination. We see abandoned buildings. As the boys drive to the location, Jan asks if he can ask the elder a question. The brown-eyed man asks if the gamer knows about Division 7.5, after which Harry's face immediately changes. Chocolate Hair says that he tried to go for his friend, but only found a message that the division had taken him. Harry replies that he knows about them, but doesn't know who exactly they are, to which the schoolboy replies that it seems to be an army. Blue Eyes realizes that the situation is similar to what happened to his parents when he came to their house. After this little conversation, the guys finally reached this safe place. But suddenly a car with blood on the hood and a broken windshield appears behind the young men. The gamer recognizes it as an army jeep. The car rushes past at very high speed. The car suddenly stops and breaks down. Sparks appear around it from such a breakdown. The boy is still frozen in place, while the protagonist gets off his bike and is ready to act. The brown-haired man knocks on the glass, trying to break the man, who doesn't look like a zombie. Harry is certain that it is a human as the man gradually regains consciousness. The gamer pulls the guy out of the car, holding him by the collar of his military uniform. The man himself is covered in cold sweat. Blue-Eyed looks over the entire car, realizing that there is definitely nothing valuable in it. The man's name is Chester. He takes out a knife, saying that it is better not to touch it. In response, the hero kicks the knife out of his hands. Chester says that the young man can take his knife, but asks that no one touch it. The brown-haired man takes the soldier's knife from the ground, saying that it is up to him to decide whether he will be safe. Harry guesses that Chester is a deserter, because what would a soldier do here, especially alone? To which the man replies that all his other comrades died, and he was the only one who was able to survive. The brown-eyed man asks if this man is really a soldier. The question seems a little stupid. Harry also notes that it is obvious because he is wearing a military uniform, but then he realizes something. The young man grabs the man by the collar of his jacket while he insistently demands that he let him go. The brown-haired man takes the metal chain from Chester's neck into his hands while he tries to understand what is happening. Blue-Eyed demands that the soldier give him his personal number, which is written on his chain. The man himself does not understand what the guy is talking about, breaking out in a cold sweat from the tension. The main character says that all soldiers remember their personal number by heart, so he must say it. The personal number matches, which is why the hero says that Chester has managed to earn several trust points. Afterwards, the young man asks about the 7.5 division, and the soldier hears about it for the first time. Jan says that there is no point in lingering outside for so long, as they really do have to go. The brown-haired man suggests simply climbing over the fence, but the chocolate-haired man is a little worried about the military man. The man himself looks very scared. The schoolboy doesn't want to leave him so easily. The boy is really worried. After which the soldier says that he has a crack in his leg. The gamer himself is very irritated by everything the man says, because recently Chester demanded that he not be touched. To which the man replies that he thought the hero would harm him, and then the commentators join in. Commentators say Harry won't help, to which he replies that they are insulting him. After the brown-haired man climbs over the fence, he asks the schoolboy if he can open the door manually. Blue-Eyed says that the electricity was cut off, then offers to help the soldier. Brown-Eyed is only too happy to help. He really intends to save the wounded Chester. The building the heroes come to turns out to be simply enormous, and there are even a couple of cars parked in the parking lot. Shayton also notices this, wondering why the gate is open if the cars have left. Blue Eyes says it's best to stay vigilant because someone might be inside. All the heroes look around, and Chester notices that it is indeed very quiet in this building. The comrades enter the medical center to provide first aid to the wounded man, while Harry is already getting ready to go on reconnaissance. The schoolboy asks if his elder brother will leave him because he is really worried. Blue Eyes replies that most likely not, which sounds very encouraging. A few moments later, we see the main character climbing the steps of the building. Looking around, the brown-haired man talks to the audience about whether or not to leave the boy here. The audience is not very keen to leave John here alone, as he is very kind and has a good sense of direction. The gamer hears the voices of other people trying to escape coming from the large door. But when Harry enters the room, he sees a large amount of equipment connected to electricity. All this greatly surprises the main character because he thought that the electricity had been cut off here. Afterwards, one of the people on the radio stutters about being 7.5 years old, and then his voice breaks off. The streamer thinks that these are various hints that are given to him to overcome obstacles. The young man calls up an information window, which says that if the hero gets to the station, he will be able to leave the city. The guy throws open the doors, exiting the room as the commentators cheer him on. As Harry descends the stairs, he calls for Ian to show himself as soon as possible. Entering the medical office, the gamer sees only Chester, after which he asks where the schoolboy went. The man replies that he heard some strange sound from the basement, and Jan goes to check what it was. Blue-Eyed takes it out on the military man, then runs off in search of his younger teammate. But Harry has a different plan. He is going to find the keys to the taxi and leave here as soon as possible. There are some documents lying on the table. Other folders are scattered around. The hero is still very tense. The brunette tries to find the keys, saying it out loud as if it would actually help. Then the gamer hears loud sounds from the first floors of the building, which disturbs him even more. The guy quickly runs to the first floor. He is sweating heavily from the rush, looking down. We see Chester lying on the floor, but he is not dead. The man reports that he has fallen. The main character has already collected his thoughts, but shortness of breath makes itself felt. The soldier asks for help. The brown-haired man is very irritated by this, because the man is a lot of trouble, to which he talks about strange sounds in the basement, after which a strange and eerie sound is heard again. Was this really what Chester was talking about? Both heroes turn their gaze to the basement, from where sounds continued to be heard. We hear the sounds of footsteps and boots climbing the basement steps, getting closer to our comrades. The brown-haired man and the cripple are very frightened and surprised by what is right in front of them. We are faced with a very creepy man who holds a knife to Jan's throat. But the hero cannot simply retreat, leaving the younger one in danger all alone. The blue-eyed man holds out his hand with a knife, asking the man to step back and let the young man go. But the man does not back down, continuing to hold the knife to the boy's throat while he is in great distress. The man breaks out in a sweat, calling the schoolboy a thief, which happened while Harry was away. Afterwards, the crazy guy says that the other heroes are also thieves. They don't let him work normally. While the soldier is very confused, the main character behaves very confidently. Blue-Eyed offers the man another version of events. He says that they are not thieves. The gamer says that they came to get jobs as drivers, which are in short supply. The young man continues to insist on his position, saying that he really wants to get this job and get behind the wheel. Kudryavi replies that the interview really wouldn't hurt. Did he really believe that? Afterwards, the man asks about the applications that the guys had to bring if they wanted to get a job. The man replies that without an application there will be no interview because he is very busy. Shaitan says that the statements were left in another room after asking the soldier to bring other papers. Harry and the curly-haired man were able to come to an agreement. The man became much plumper from the fact that he would have drivers. Chester brought an application. He was specifically looking for a man who would be similar to the main character. The man releases Ian from his grip, beginning to carefully read the statement he was given. The blue-eyed man tells the schoolboy to come to him as quickly as possible while the curly-haired man is distracted. The boy wastes no time and rushes towards his friend, knocking the big man down without intending to. Harry borrows a pair of stilts from a military man, hitting the curly-haired man right in the stomach with them, causing him to fly off. The gamer twists the man, then quickly explains who must do what to make everything go well. After a few seconds of searching, Chester finds the car keys in the boss's back pocket. Then we see the whole company running across the parking lot to the coveted work car. The soldier is put behind the wheel, which leaves him a little shocked, but Harry tells him to start the car. Blue-Eyed says to go to the station, which makes the man ask in confusion why such a choice. The brown-haired man demands not to ask unnecessary questions, but to finally start the car and leave as quickly as possible. After which, in the gates, we see several more silhouettes that look so much like people. And these really are people, but why and from what are they running? There is something red behind them. It is a huge monster with several arms. Its body is located horizontally. Shaitan says that he believes in Chester. They need to leave as soon as possible because the situation is getting worse. The monster apparently notices our heroes, starting to scream furiously, opening its mouth. The man is under a lot of stress. Even though he is driving, the car is not moving yet. But after just a few seconds, the taxi leaves the parking area at high speed. The monster approaches faster and faster as the comrades turn the car around. Harry and Ian can see the monster through the car window. The brown-haired man replies that at this rate they will quickly catch up with them. Suddenly, the same crazy man after whom the hero notices comes out of the building. Blue Eyes orders Chester to direct the car towards the boss as quickly as possible. The man completely lost his temper and started shouting loudly that the heroes were thieves. But literally a second later, he fell silent. Apparently, the man finally realized what position he was in. Curly sees how a huge, ugly monster is driving towards him and running after him. The soldier quickly turns towards the central gate as the monster crashes into the building. All the comrades are safe and they were finally able to get away from this hell. After some time, Chester asks if the protagonist really wants to take advantage of this man, to which the brown-haired man himself replies that they had no other choice, either his life or theirs. The man is very surprised to hear such an honest and straightforward answer from the guy, to which the brown-eyed man supports him, saying that there really was no other choice. Harry sees a familiar blue line on the road that demarcates zones in the game. The car passes the line and a pop-up window appears, informing them that they have passed the fork point. The next pop-ups inform you that viewers can now set goals and pay for them. The gamer wonders if other people can see it, to which they respond that they can't even hear him. The brunette is digging through the game settings, trying to figure out what happened, asking the commentators for help. He receives a donation that he has nothing to worry about because John is a great teammate. Looking out of the car window, the blue-eyed man notices that the creature is still chasing them. The streamer asks if the soldier can step on the gas, to which he replies that this is the maximum. The distance begins to gradually decrease because the monster is not inferior to the car in speed. 151. The brown-haired man asks the schoolboy if he is familiar with this route, to which he answers uncertainly. The chocolate-haired man is under a lot of pressure to remember her as quickly as possible, which makes him nervous. The young man suddenly realized something. Did he really remember the route on this highway? The brown-eyed man asks to turn, but the soldier replies that this will reduce their speed several times. The boy breaks down, starting to scream, which even the main character is shocked and asks Chester to do as the younger one said. Jan tries to explain the way while the guys are still being chased by a huge monster at high speed. The heroes reach the descent and began to gradually pick up speed, fortunately for them. Chester shouts that there is a section of the road with a landslide and we see it with our own eyes. But the schoolboy insists that his plan be carried out, arguing that Crawler does not know how to brake. Shayton asks his viewers to give him a mission, but they are already saying goodbye to him in the comments. But someone still gives Harry a mission, which makes him stop crying and is very surprised. The mission is to provoke the monster, and in return, the car will not skid. The monster is in complete shock from the main character's insults. You don't hear that every day. But the guy continues his speech, while Jan is shocked by the whole situation, and especially by the gamer. Even Chester intervened in this conversation, saying that the hero had really gone mad before his death. Fortunately, the mission was completed, and the effect will be activated, which makes the blue-eyed man very happy. The soldier asks everyone to hold on tight because it is time to turn on this road. The guy's car is drifting a lot from such speeds. We hope that they will survive. Everyone in the car is also thrown to one side. Once the effect is applied, everything should go fine. And just a second later, we see a huge monster flying straight down from the cliff. The crawler looks at the hero's car one last time, or he has a plan to avoid death. Chester is glad that everyone is alive, but he is very scared because of this whole situation. They survived now, but how long will they be alive later? At this time, the schoolboy catches his breath. Harry thinks hard. It's good that everyone remained alive. The young man thanks his donor for literally just saving him from death. After some time, the guys had already recovered from this incident, discussing a plan of action. Usually there are a lot of cars on the road where they are now driving, but now there is not a single soul on it. Several zombies appear in front of the car, which makes the soldier nervous, but the gamer is calm. Shayton says that he will distract the monster's attention to himself for now so that his comrades can reach the station. Ian tries to persuade the blue-eyed man, but he insists that he can handle it on his own. Harry begins to provoke the monsters that stand in front of him, but the zombies themselves are surprisingly calm. Afterwards, the guy's provocation skill is triggered on these three, after which he is ready to fight. A new skill is applied to the streamer, which accumulates his buffs at a certain point. While attacking monsters, the young man thinks that he needs to pump up this skill because it gives more points for one zombie. We see the main character pierce the monster's neck with a knife without hesitation. He then deals with other zombies as well, his fighting skills having greatly increased over time. This time, the knife ends up right in the monster's skull, Harry skillfully wielding his weapon. But another zombie appeared from behind, and in the background we also see the silhouette of a church. This monster also got what he deserved, and the gamer stuck a knife into his throat with all his might. The brown-haired man was a little tired of this battle, but for him it was now something like a routine, because zombies were literally everywhere. The hero's physical strength and reflexes have increased significantly, which is amazing. Following a strange noise, the boy sees a man being bitten by a zombie while he curses someone. The brown-haired man hides behind his back, thinking about what he saw. The man called Bob, who is the mayor of the city. Blue-Eyed asks his viewers if they should help him, to which everyone does not want to do it, but the exhausted one wants to help him. Harry decides to help, and all because the exhausted one then gave him a mission when the young man needed it so much. The man begins to scream in fear, asking at least someone to help him because he is defenseless. We see the blue-eyed man approach and with a quick movement kill the monster that was nearby. A man lies in front of him, covered in tears and snot, no longer hoping to survive. The brown-haired man asks who exactly the man was mentioning, looking frightening. After some time, the man explains everything to the young man, saying that the mayor will abandon him. The men were heading towards the train station, but because of the monsters, our friend suggested looking for another route. But the mayor threw the man out of the car. He had completely gone crazy when the apocalypse began. The heroes then discuss where exactly the mayor went, and it is the train station. Most likely he is still alive because of the security. Blue Eyes is a little shocked that the guards stayed with him and are still loyal to him. Some people were hired from outside, some stayed, which is very surprising. Shayton notes that it looks as if the mayor is needed by someone in power, and that is why he is being looked after so much. The man says that he does not see the hero's companions, to which Harry replies that they are already at the station. The man's name is Eugene, after which the main character himself introduces himself by his name. But upon hearing the boy's name, Eugene began to break out in a cold sweat and become very nervous. A civil servant notices a girl standing alone in a dress in front of the entrance to the station. Blue-Eyed thinks it's just a girl, but what is she doing here alone while the man is still scared? Harry covers the man's mouth when he tries to name her. He doesn't want to attract attention. A little girl has no business being alone in a place like this. Her dress is covered in blood. She is covered in blood and black stains. We see her sharp teeth and disheveled hair. The audience says that the gamer is unlucky, to which he asks what it is and how dangerous it is. Blue Eyes asks to assign a mission, but later finds out that it costs a whole 100 yen. For the audience, 1 yen is like 10,000 won for a young man in times of famine, which the gamer cannot believe. The streamer tries to deal with all the tension by calming the man down, asking him not to talk. Suddenly, we hear some sound from the station itself, to which the girl reacts. She opens her mouth, which is full of sharp teeth, and runs towards the sound at great speed. Both guys are shocked by what they saw. Eugene says that he is not changing to the station. The civil servant turns around and starts running in the opposite direction. But the man falls down the stairs, and in front of his body we see the legs of that same girl. Eugene looks up, saying that there is another one, but isn't it the same one? The girl looks scary, her hair fluttering in the wind, allowing us to see her face. We then see the monster quickly dispatch its victim right before Harry's eyes. The audience calls her Silent Girl, then says that she is blind, but can react to sounds. But unfortunately for the brown-haired man, someone upstairs is making noise again, which will definitely attract the attention of the monster. The girl carefully approaches the blue-eyed man while he continues to stand in one place. Suddenly, the gamer's new owner gives him a new mission: to freeze in front of the monster, and then there will be a reward in the form of the fact that if he touches her, she will lose her hearing. Blue Eyes is glad that someone paid for the mission, but at the same time he is also very worried. Silent Girl walks right past his face, causing Harry to become very scared, but he continues to stand. The gamer breaks out in a cold sweat that quickly rolls down his chin. Harry is worried that the monster might have noticed him, but even so, he continues to stand. Blue-Eyed closes his eyes in fear. He cannot understand whether she noticed him. But a moment later, the streamer opens his eyes and the girls walk past him, fortunately. The mission was completed and the effect is now activated, but the hero himself falls off his feet from the strain. The gamer returns to Eugene's body to see how badly he was hurt. The spectators advise him to get up, but Harry himself reaches for the government employee's wallet. The brown-haired man takes away the department's statement that he is a civil servant. This will help him in the future. But suddenly Eugene becomes a zombie and heads towards the main character. What will he do? Blue Eyes clearly didn't expect that this girl could infect zombies with a virus from ordinary people. But the gamer doesn't hesitate to stab his former friend through the throat, which is surprising. The guy hopes that the monster will not appear again because she is quite dangerous. Looking around the station, Harry tries to figure out where to put his two comrades, whom he sent here. A moment later, we see the girl climbing the stairs, followed by someone's screams. The brown-haired man recognizes the voice of the man that Silent Gear reacted to, but he still can't fully comprehend something. Blue-Eyed turns around, saying that he is leaving, to which the audience laughs at his reaction. But the user of the new owner sets a new mission, which says that Harry must save his friends. The main character's reward will be 20 yen. After hearing this, the blue-eyed man stops. Afterwards, he looks around the station again to figure out how he should proceed. The young man enters a local eatery. The audience thinks that he is hungry, but Shaitan has a different plan. The brunette really has something in mind. He goes to the stand where they usually fry potatoes and asks the audience to watch. Blue-Eyed hangs himself for several hours, calling it his strategy, but the audience thinks he's gone crazy. We then return to the schoolboy and the soldier, who are cornered by two monsters. But both heroes were saved, because the main character, who is ready for a fight, enters their room. The brown-haired man turns on one of the watches, which attracts the attention of the monsters and triggers the provocation skill. After this, the gamer immediately leaves the toilet room, heading in the other direction. He then throws the working clock in the other direction, which greatly confuses the girls. He throws another watch towards the monsters, thinking that it is still early, but it is too early to do anything that he does not explain. Both girls fell for the little trick with the watch and started running after it. The main character tells his comrades to get down. They are only glad that they were saved. The audience asks if it wouldn't be easier to use the skill from the reward, but the brown-haired man replies that it is too dangerous. Chester, leaving the toilet, reports that he broke his crutch, which will make it very difficult for him to move. Blue-Eyed asks the younger one to help the soldier, demanding that they speak as quietly as possible. The mission is completed, and the hero receives his treasured money for saving his friends. Chester starts to groan, to which Harry again repeats to him that he needs to be as quiet as possible. Suddenly, the blue-eyed man realizes something for himself, quickly directing his gaze to the military man. Chester looks very bad. His eyes are swollen shut and he is covered in cold sweat. He is starting to look like a zombie. The brown-haired man seriously asks what state the man is in now, to which he mumbles. The protagonist grabs Ian by the hand and walks away from Chester in a different direction, as he could turn into a zombie. We see a soldier standing alone. Harry mentally apologizes to him, but they have no other choice. The brown-eyed man doesn't understand what's happening and starts crying, because this is his friend. But the brown-haired man asks him to leave, but his facial expression makes it clear that the young man also regrets it. There is no one at the station, which means the train is most likely not working. It is dangerous to just stay here. The gamer tells the schoolboy that they need to get out of here as quickly as possible, but we hear wheezing from behind. Chester points at something with his finger. Apparently, he hasn't completely turned into a monster yet. Harry turns in the direction the soldier is pointing to see what's going on. Blue-Eyed sees something that really strikes his gaze. Apparently, it is a scoreboard. Surprisingly, the train will arrive soon, but how could the streamer not notice the board when it is so close? Shaitan is amazed that the trains are actually still running, but there is only a minute left before departure. The gamer mentally thanks the soldier for the hint, saying that he will not forget it for a long time. The streamer thinks that he will definitely be able to thank him later, after his death. The heroes finally reach the train tracks. Harry asks to listen to him carefully. The elder asks the schoolboy to be careful, because monsters will come out of the train. The brown-eyed man nods affirmatively with a slightly sad face. Apparently, the loss of his comrade was difficult for him. The loudspeakers announce that an arriving train is passing through this station. The boy is surprised that the radio broadcast is working. Because of this, the monsters will soon come running. The main character asks the younger one to climb into a box that is nearby in order to save himself. The high-speed train is already here, rushing between stations with a loud sound. We see a large monster and several small ones running right behind the train. Both heroes hid in the box, waiting for the monsters to disperse behind the train. Shaitan wonders why the train didn't stop if this was one of its stops. One train is followed by another. The first train was just bait for most of the monsters. Blue Eyes climbs out of the box, asking the boy to sit in a safe place for a little while longer. Shaitan says that he is not going to leave without his comrade, so he shouldn't worry. The gamer runs up to the second train to inspect everything and find out the situation. A beautiful girl appears before us who leads this passage. She does not see the mayor. Blue Eyes notices the long-haired one, who is looking around the area in search of the mayor. The main character remembers that he saw this girl before. We see him sitting at the computer in the old days. The news reported that this woman named Sophie caught a pickpocket with her own hands. The girl speaks out loud about Division 7.5 and how they will give her a place in a bomb shelter if she brings the mayor. Blue-Eyed thinks that her behavior is very different from what was in the interview. At first, the hero thinks about knocking Sophie out by force, but then comes to the conclusion that they need a driver. The brown-eyed one is already prepared to attack and uses body language to communicate his intentions. But the gamer does not intend to attack. He wants to calmly talk to this girl about the situation that is developing. But Yan climbs out of the box, showing a metal pipe. The girl does not understand at all what is happening. Longhair decided that both heroes wanted to steal her train in order to get to a safe place themselves. But the brown-haired man asks her to look at the piece of paper he is holding out to see if it is really Eugene's card. Sophie, reading the paper, thinks that Harry is the mayor's man, even though you wouldn't know it by looking at him. Blue Eyes says that it is true and he has a message for the typist that needed to be conveyed. The gamer announces that the mayor is dead. What is he doing, and what if the man suddenly shows up? The brown-eyed girl is very surprised by such words. Breaking out in a cold sweat, the situation changes dramatically. She really can't believe that it was true, starting to ask for details. Gar tells her a story he made up and which she easily believed. But hearing some sound, Sophie says to get out as quickly as possible, with which the hero clearly agrees. The girl perked up again because her mission was to deliver the mayor, but what would she do without him? Shaitan says that the contract is no longer valid because the man died, which means she needs to deliver the guy. The long-haired girl gets very upset, breaks out in a cold sweat again, and curses. The girl agrees to give the blue-eyed man a ride because she needs a place in the bomb shelter. The streamer turns around saying that they will take Jan with them, but under what pretext? Longhair points out that the boy doesn't look like a civil servant at all, so why should they take him? A schoolboy puts on a cute face to get Sophie to let him on the train, and she breaks down under his gaze. A few moments later, we see the train leaving the station at great speed. Both guys are glad that everything is okay now and they can leave the city safely. Chester, who has already turned into a zombie, runs out to the station. Apparently, he is seeing the heroes off. Moments later, Chester is knocked down by the mayor himself, who starts running after the train. Blue Eyes can't believe his eyes as Mayor Bob orders the train to be stopped. Sophie gets off the train to see who is screaming so loudly outside. The man is talking to the girl. She was supposed to wait for him, so what's the matter now? The protagonist says that it is too late to stop now, and she must take control into her own hands. Several silent girls are running right behind the man, so if they stop, they will all die. Longhair is very angry that Harry lied to her about being a civil servant. But Sophie accepts the situation as it is, because now nothing can be changed. The mayor continues to yell that they must save him because only he knows the code. But the man still says the code, and that's the end, after which we see Chester getting close to his neck. Harry then watches as the mayor is bitten by his comrade, who is clearly shocked by the event. Afterwards, the hero asks if this can be considered a successful outcome, to which they answer positively. Blue Eyes tells the schoolboy to go inside. It's not very safe here. When she goes to the typist, she asks for an explanation, but the main character does not understand why. The girl's nerves give out and she presses the guy against the wall, after which he tells her his real name. It's better not to anger the long-haired girl. The girl asks who he is, if he could pull off such a thing. Blue Eyes says that he is just a passenger on this train, and he never introduced himself on his business card. The brown-eyed woman says that she will now kick them both out of this train, after which the hero explains himself. Harry talks about Eugene's fate and how unfairly the mayor himself treated him. Shaitan says he had no choice but to lie about being a civil servant. Sophie calls them stowaways because they dared to lie to her so brazenly about the man. The main character then mentions the interview, after which the long-haired one stops. Blue Eyes remembers that in it she says that some passengers may be stowaways due to special cases. The brown-eyed girl can't understand how he knows her name and why he knows so much about her in general. The girl is very embarrassed until she realizes that the gamer read her interview about work. The gamer is shocked by this reaction after honestly admitting that he actually read this interview. The brunette teases Sophie even more, saying that he really liked the article. The long-haired girl covers herself with her cap to hide the blush on her cheeks from embarrassment. Brown-eyed wonders if the main character is really that bad. Afterwards, the girl says that there is nothing that can be done now, and they will have to try to act together. The streamer asks if this train is really going to the city he needs, to which Sophie nods in the affirmative. Then Shaitan asks about Division 7.5, and the typist knows about them, but not much. Longhair tells a little about this division. No one knows anything about them, and they only communicate via emergency communication signal. There is a small warm-up between the elders, which is allowed in the haystack. Blue Eyes continues to talk about Division 7.5, trying to find out more. But the girl herself knows nothing about them. She just suddenly received a signal from the division. The brown-haired man received valuable information for which he thanks the girl. Jan suddenly calls out to Harry to turn around, the schoolgirl's face expressing intense fear. Deeply interested, the blue-eyed man looks out of the train window to see what's going on. There is a silent girl standing outside the window on a train, which makes the viewers themselves very scared and starts writing about it. The typist turns to see what's going on, but the hero asks her to be quiet. Blue-eyed is thinking about a plan of action. Apparently because of the noise of the wheels, the girl has not noticed them yet. The brown-haired man covers the girl's mouth with his hand so that the monster cannot notice and kill her. The gamer is given a new mission, in which he needs to kill a monster in 5 minutes, and then he will be given a skill in return. The streamer complains that 5 minutes is too little, to which viewers say that he can handle it. Then the young man is given a new task from another user, which makes the young man very happy. User's new owner and Exhausted start arguing in the chat of the main character. The brown-haired man himself is a little shocked by this turn of events. What is happening at all? The main character doesn't know what to do, because before he had only one viewer, and this is the first time he has had such a problem. The brunette decides that it is not so important now, and then leaves the main carriage of the train. Harry goes straight to the girl. The audience supports him because they don't want him to die. Blue-eyed opens the skill windows. Because of the noise of the wheels and the train, the girl basically does not hear the guy. The gamer activates the skill. If he touches the monster, it will deprive her of hearing for 1 minute. The brown-haired man touches the girl, which makes her very scared and shudder. Silent girl quickly turns around, causing the blue-eyed man to jump in the other direction. The girl attacks the streamer, opening her mouth with sharp, bloody teeth. The monster heads away from the train. She gets closer and closer to the edge of the train. Harry still pushes the monster off the train, and she falls behind the train, -1 problem. The brown-haired man checks to see if the monster really fell, but the girl grabbed onto part of the train. Blue Eyes is shocked by this. Apparently, Silent Girl has too much vitality because she is alive with her legs torn off. The gamer tries to throw off the monster by hitting her head with his foot, trying to throw the girl off. But the monster tries to grab the hero's sneakers, stretching out his hands so as not to die. But Harry stabs her arm many times to finally throw her off the train. The monster's entire arm is covered in blood from the numerous wounds that were inflicted on it just now. Silent Girl has finally left the train and will no longer bother or disturb its visitors. The protagonist once again checks with his gaze whether the monster has really fallen behind them. The brown-haired man takes hold of his hand and starts screaming loudly, which starts to disturb all the spectators. It was a skill that the hero gained from touching the monster with his hand. The mission was completed and the reward was received. The young man really did it in 5 minutes. Jan is very worried about his friend when he enters the train cabin. He replies that everything is fine. Sophie is amazed at how good Harry is at fighting monsters. She underestimated him. The long-haired one grabbed him because she didn't think that he would actually go and sort things out with her. Suddenly, Harry slid to the floor. The schoolboy was very alarmed by his friend's behavior. Brown-eyed says that they were able to catch a signal, after which the hero asks about the division. While they were being contacted, the division asked about the screams, asking what exactly was happening now. The girl says that if you go straight ahead, there will be a checkpoint at a stop ahead. Blue Eyes asks what about the mayor since he died before he could board the train. Brown-eyed was told that the conditions had changed and that the train needed to be left to the mechanic. The protagonist sits down on the floor again. Sophie asks what happened to him and if the young man is okay. The gamer replies that too many things have gone wrong in his life to hold his head. A few seconds later, we see the train covering long distances at high speed. The information window states that it is better not to stop at the stop, and the guy asks the audience for help. The audience gives him a little hint, but then Sophie distracts him because the young man has become quiet. Harry asks if they can just skip the stops, looking at her seriously. The brown-eyed girl is a little surprised by this question, breaking out in a cold sweat. The protagonist gives several arguments why they shouldn't stop. Sophie agrees to his proposal because if they are caught and locked up, they will be dead. They still don't trust Division 7.5, especially since the stops aren't operating normally. Brown-eyed agrees with everything the main character says. She is ready to fight for her life. Shaitan asks if there is a section between the station and the railway station that could block train traffic. The long-haired girl remembers about the branching. If someone moves the lever, the train will turn onto the unfinished tracks. The guy thinks that it exists because of the stop, because if they miss him, they will switch the lever at the junction. But even if they are a minute away, they will still have to make a stop at the point. We see Harry use his skill and the military hears the train approaching. The brown-haired man screams loudly that the train is broken. They find him shirtless, waving his arms. The military cannot understand anything while the blue-eyed man continues to shout loudly about the train. The men don't know what to do next as the train passes them at high speed. Sophie asks what he's doing. The guy creates a panic so that no one has time to do anything. Afterwards, the girl notices his loud voice, to which the brown-haired man himself jokes off this remark. The train continues on, entering the tunnel, hoping that no one will actually have time to react. Longhair confirms that Harry's words are right because the road wasn't even cleared of monsters. After some time, we actually see the heroes who got off the train. Apparently, they now have a new plan, because the schoolboy stayed on the train wearing a driver's cap. The boy must distract attention so that the others can escape. The young man himself is determined. Sophie is unsure that the boy will be able to handle the controls, to which the young man replies that Jan is excellent at remembering information. Going further into the forest, the guy sees a checkpoint, which is located not so far away. The point turns out to be smaller than the heroes think. Most likely she does not suspect that the heroes are here. The young man suggests going around the hill, through the thickets of a small forest which is located not so far away. The comrades notice that there are soldiers near them who are walking around the forest from all sides. The men talk about what should be done with the heroes. If they resist, then shoot. The military doesn't even think about leaving people alive. They are so bloodthirsty. Sophie takes the hero by the elbow. She has a fierce look. It's really better not to joke with her. Afterwards, they say that they don't need to be killed, but can be used as labor. The main character twists one soldier's arm and holds a bloody knife to his throat, while the long-haired one strangles one of the men with her belt while he is distracted. The heroes, unwilling to retreat, decisively attack the military, while the other men are in shock. The man who was disarmed by the guy tries to shoot, but the brown-haired guy advises him not to do so. The brown-eyed woman snatched a machine gun from one of the soldiers while strangling his neck, the man's face twisted in pain. Sophie decisively kicks his stomach with all her might to knock him out. A soldier falls off a cliff while a girl looks down at him, enjoying the view. The other soldiers ask to stop this. They are clearly very afraid of both comrades. But the long-haired one is not going to stop. She remembers that not long ago they wanted to kill them. The girl gets even more furious with the military speeches about duty and the fact that she cannot kill government employees. But the man takes out a knife, trying to defend himself from Sophie, who is so well prepared. But the brown-eyed girl knocks the knife out of his hands, then again kicks him in the stomach with all her might. The typist wastes no time and hits another man with the butt of her machine gun. The main character calls the girl, but she is in a very bad mood right now. The audience is amazed at how strong the woman is standing in front of them now. Harry says it's okay and she can hit people as much as she wants. The guy later asks the girl if she has ever used a gun before, and the answer is yes. A few seconds later, both heroes find themselves in the forest, clearing the way for the train. The brown-haired man looks over the cliff, starting to shake. Then Sophie asks what happened. We see a large crowd of zombies climbing straight towards their comrades faster and faster. Teammates need to hurry because they need to clear the checkpoint as soon as possible. A few seconds later, we see several soldiers guarding a checkpoint. Together with the security inside, there should be about 10 people in total. The spectators are worried. The gunfire may make the zombies climb faster. But the train is the most important task right now. Longhair takes her position, preparing to shoot accurately at the military. Suddenly, a bullet flies past the main character, which makes the guy very scared. The guards had already noticed their comrades, so they started shooting at Harry to defend themselves. The brown-haired man curses loudly, then gets into a fighting stance, also beginning his attack. Blue Eyes hits several people, but is shot at from all sides, so he cannot stick his head out. Sophie asks why the boy is frozen when he needs to shoot for their safety. Suddenly, the streamer is shot in the shoulder. The young man makes a face from the intense pain. The long-haired girl immediately noticed him, to which the guy replied that he was only slightly offended. Harry asks the audience if they see anything, but they only see what the hero himself sees. The firepower of the military clearly exceeds the power of the main characters who are trying to survive. We see Sophie, who has also been hit, with a small amount of blood flowing from her arm. Harry asks how many times the brown-eyed girl fired, to which she replies 20. But the military is getting closer and closer to the main characters, which is what the viewers warn Harry about. The brown-haired girl says that they need to retreat as soon as possible, but the brown-eyed girl asks what will happen next. They simply have no choice but to retreat right now, otherwise they might die. But the military is not going to retreat either. On the contrary, it is getting closer and closer. Blue-eyed asks the girl to run while he covers her from behind, shooting back. Some bullets even hit the target, namely the heads of the soldiers who die. The gamer also runs after the typist, while the audience says that he shouldn't have started fighting against the group. Harry asks his viewers to help him with the mission. Apparently, he is very desperate. Commentators say that too much has already been given to the young man, and some do not have enough money. The guy reflects on this whole situation, thinking that perhaps it is his own fault for not being prepared. Blue-eyed says that he cannot die so easily, remembering the only one. Harry also tells the girl not to even think about dying. Sophie herself does not understand what he is talking about. The gamer is going to go down to bring the zombies with him. Now they need to split up. The brown-haired man screams at the collapse. His provocation skill works on a huge number of monsters. The brown-eyed woman is completely shocked by what exactly the streamer is doing, asking if he has gone crazy. Blue Eyes continues to provoke more zombies who are angry at his speech. The brown-eyed woman tries to stop the main character, but he explains his whole plan to her. Harry tries to set the zombies on the checkpoint, which leaves the girl in a stupor. A few seconds later, we see a young man running straight towards the military with a crowd of zombies following him. Blue-eyed manages to run past the guards, and the spectators are surprised by his jump. Men only later realize that the guy is already hiding from their sight, trying to catch it. The young man climbs up the branches while a crowd of monsters and several soldiers run after him. We see huge iron doors that are very close to the forest in which everything takes place. The main character lifted these large iron doors that were in his way with one hand. Those soldiers who remained at the checkpoint opened fire. But after a few seconds, a huge wave of zombies bursts into the point with great force. The action shifts to Sophie, who continues to destroy zombies with the butt of a machine gun. The girl does not stop and is truly bloodthirsty, finishing off each monster. The zombie's face is too close to the long-haired girl's own face. The main character quickly runs to her aid, also wielding the butt of a machine gun. The brown-eyed girl calls the young man by name. Apparently, such a gesture greatly touched her heart. Brown-haired says that the monsters have changed their path. He asks the typist to grab him. But the girl herself does not understand what the young man is talking about and why she should grab onto him at all. Suddenly, the guy throws Sophie over his shoulder, holding her body with his hands. The long-haired one doesn't understand anything, but she doesn't resist Harry at all, who carries her. The brown-eyed girl can't answer the gamer because she's simply frozen in shock. But after a few seconds, the lady finally comes to her senses, finally responding to questions. Both heroes reach a fork in the road after Harry asks if Sophie can change the turnout. The zombie boy takes over, while the long-haired one has to switch the translation for a minute. The brown-haired man moves closer to the metal doors, hearing the monsters killing people. The brown-eyed girl's hands are shaking violently from the stress she experienced not long ago. We see the blue-eyed one deal with the rest of the zombies to save himself. The girl finally switches the lever with her shaking hands, hoping that the train will arrive soon. The gamer asks how long the lady will continue to fuss, with her back to her, continuing to fight back. The typist replies that she has already completed the assigned task and everything is ready for the train. The brunette takes Sophie in his arms again, throwing her over his shoulder. Perhaps it's faster that way. The long-haired one herself was not particularly delighted with such a gesture, making a displeased face. Blue Eyes says that the train is already very close. They need to jump on it as quickly as possible. Literally a couple of seconds later, a train appears in front of us, blinding us with its lights. The gamer suddenly realizes that the train is not going to slow down, but what happened to Jan? The next moment, we see the boy lying covered in blood on the floor of the train. Brown-Eyed reports that the monsters are getting closer and closer. They need to think faster. But suddenly, the provocation skill works on 2 more monsters. Who could it be? The blue-eyed man asks the girl to hold on tight, because this is the only way he can ensure her safety. He runs straight after the train to get on it by any means necessary because this is their chance for survival. More zombies are provoked towards the hero, and the long-haired one wonders why he is doing this. They can barely keep up with the train because it is rushing at full speed. But this is not enough for the brown-haired man. Why is he doing all this? What is his plan this time? The audience thinks that the heroes are never destined to get on the train and that it will leave without them. Commentators advise to leave the girl so that the hero himself can get on the train. But the brown-haired man hopes that his skill will work on as large monsters as possible. Suddenly, the skill works on another monster, after which the young man feels more confident. After the skill was upgraded, Harry's body abilities were increased to 100. Blue Eyes asks Sophie to brag more strongly, to hold on tightly even through the pain. The girl hits her back against the train, throwing her back with a loud sound and coughing. But she still managed to grab onto the train's handrail. Fortunately, everything will be fine with her. Harry himself runs as fast as he can to also jump on the train in order to survive. The provocation skill will work for 5 seconds, after which all the hero's powers will disappear. But the main character manages to jump on the train and help the girl not to fall off it and die. Both heroes break out in a cold sweat from the intense stress they have experienced. The comrades return safely to the front of the train while the audience donates to the guy for this show. Blue-Eyed recalls telling his viewers that he did not die so easily. But at the beginning of the train, we see the cabin covered in blood. Could something have happened to the schoolboy? We see John again, lying on the floor covered in blood with another body lying next to him. It turns out that there is a zombie corpse next to him, and the girl worries whether the boy is even alive. The main character pokes the boy with the butt of a machine gun to see if he is alive. One of the spectators suggests punching the boy in the head right away, which leaves Harry in complete shock. Blue Eyes is very tense, and other commentators are asking him not to say such things. The brown-haired man is already trying to wake up the young man with his own hands. Sophie is also worried about her fellow traveler. Here we hear wheezing sounds from Jan. Could it be that he was bitten by a zombie and started to transform? Both heroes are very worried about the younger one, starting to yell at him to wake him up. Suddenly, the brown-eyed man jumps up from the floor, continuing to make different sounds, which frightens Harry. Blue Eyes is ready to kill the boy and do it quickly so that he doesn't suffer in the body of a zombie. But the schoolboy rubs the back of his head, saying that it hurts a lot, but it's good that everything is okay. The protagonist drops his weapon and grabs the younger one by the cheeks, bringing him closer to himself. The brown-haired man asks worriedly if his friend was bitten. Apparently, he had become very attached. But the boy clearly remembers that he was not bitten. He killed a zombie and slipped on blood. The streamer hugs his friend because he thought that he died or, even worse, turned into a zombie. But one of the viewers says that it is better to first examine the student's entire body and then hug him. At this point, the elder fully examines his friend's body, hoping that his actions did not bite. After examining him, Harry is glad that Ian was not actually bitten, and Sophie also breathes a sigh of relief. But then the brown-eyed man asks how exactly they both ended up on the train since he didn't stop it. Remembering this, the long-haired girl wonders where the main character got such strength from. The boy is shocked by what he hears, while the blue-eyed one tries to deny it. From even more information, the schoolgirl's face changes even more. He asks not to throw people into trains anymore. Shaitan says the looming threat gave him more strength and motivation, which is why he was so strong. The guy asks to let go of his throat, to which Sophie apologizes, and then we see a signal from the radio. Suddenly, the loudspeaker starts broadcasting, asking who exactly is riding on the train. The typist breaks out in a cold sweat. This is Division 7.5, and she doesn't know what to do. The brown-haired man himself is not very happy about this message. Viewers assume that everyone at the checkpoint died. But the next second, the guy picks up the radio and starts talking to the division as if nothing had happened. The man on the other end of the line asks if the young man has passed the verification procedure. The gamer says that they fixed the breakdown on the train, arrived at the point, but found themselves in the midst of a battle between zombies and people. The young man says that he is the only survivor. The driver asks to be run over by the train because of a zombie bite. Harry covers the girl's mouth because she is already about to object to the fairy tales that the guy is telling. But then the main character says that he can't hear the division well, asking if they need to go to the city they're going to. The person on the other line answers affirmatively, then the connection ends, and the long-haired girl is already scolding the young man. It's better not to go into that city now, because it's surrounded by the military. They're coming up with a new plan. Sophie remembers the Botanical Garden, which is located near the shopping street. The action moves to the Botanical Garden, where the heroes have already arrived and are scouting out the situation. The brown-haired man asks if the schoolboy needs this pipe, to which he nods in the affirmative, causing the audience to joke. The main character washed his knife, which has served him faithfully for a very long time. Blue Eyes notices that the forest is suspiciously quiet. In such a dense forest, there should at least be birds. The rest of the comrades are also trying hard to listen to their surroundings so as not to die. Suddenly, the young man hears some rustling. He asks his friends if they heard anything. Afterwards, the brown-haired man asks his viewers if they see anything suspicious. The audience responds that they heard the rustling of leaves or bushes, to which Harry tenses up. The streamer asks Sophie how big the Botanical Garden is, to which she replies that it can be crossed in 20 minutes. The brown-eyed man asks to be let in first because he has already memorized the way through the garden. Blue-eyed breathes a sigh of relief that he has such a reliable comrade. We hear an incomprehensible noise again, which makes the main character tense up and call John by name. But the boy didn't lose his head and fought off the attack, whatever it was. With his pipe, it's good that he left it. The brown-haired man tugs the younger one by the backpack, pulling him back because he could get seriously hurt. An ordinary branch appears before the comrades, so what was it, and how was it able to attack them? Afterwards, the blue-eyed man tells his viewers that this is too much. I think they themselves are in shock. Now in the path of all three there is a large monster tree that blocks their path. The audience calls the monster a trelly, the result being that the entire botanical garden is teeming with these monsters. Suddenly, the monster begins to pull its roots out of the ground, clearly preparing to attack. But the girl is not one to be timid, and she wastes no time in attacking the monster at its roots. Despite its fast attacks, the trelly is very slow, so it's best to run away from it in the other direction. Jan continues to lead the heroes through the botanical garden because he has an excellent memory. But the tree monster is already here, which makes the main character very scared. Will they be able to escape? This way the comrades will be able to break away because the creature is really quite slow. But suddenly we see the roots getting closer and closer to the blue-eyed one. The blow comes very close to the main character, but he was able to dodge at the last moment. Sophie is very scared by this attack and worries about the gamer himself who fell to the ground. Longhair understands that right now they need to do something that will help them in the battle. The monster is very large compared to an ordinary person, which makes it even more frightening. The schoolboy tries to escape from the trelly by rising from the ground, but the monster is already right behind him. Blue-eyed orders the boy to run forward. As soon as they break through, they will follow him. The brown-eyed one hesitates, and because of this, the root manages to injure him. Things are really bad. Harry shouts at his friend to leave as quickly as possible because the boy will not survive here. The younger one still listens to the older one and cleans up, but at parting he tells them to survive. Both heroes fight tree monsters as their numbers increase. The long-haired girl chops them with the butt of a machine gun, loudly screaming about how she's already fed up with this. But the blue-eyed man notices something strange. His skill that works on monsters does not activate. Viewers suggest that this is because the monsters are not targeting him, as they have no eyes or ears. The skill only works when Harry himself starts to provoke the trellis with his attacks. Afterwards, he asks Sophie not to attack the monsters because they determine the presence of an enemy through touch. Longhair is a little shocked by this information, saying that they are at a disadvantage. The brown-haired man suggests getting out of the garden from the opposite side, to which the girl agrees. The action shifts to Jan, who has already reached the exit of the botanical garden. The boy realized that without the ground, the tree monsters would not be able to run after him, so he was on the cobblestones. The young man remembers how kind Harry was to him, worrying about his life no less than his own. Suddenly, the schoolboy turns into the store, although they had agreed with the group to meet at the entrance. He looks around the store from the outside through the glass doors, and it seems like there really is no one there. The boy in front of some food from the shelves, what his plan is right now is unknown. The brown-eyed boy is very determined. He wants to help the team in any way possible. The young man makes a torch from the things he took from the store. He is really smart. Apparently, he was going to burn down all the trees in this botanical garden, but that's not the best idea. And the boy actually brings the homemade torch to one of the trellis, causing it to catch fire. The creature makes strange sounds from the pain it is experiencing right now, being covered in fire. The trees run away, but at the same time they spread fire to each other as they move. What will happen next? The schoolboy continues to burn the monsters while they try to escape in fear. But one of the trees is rushing straight at the boy. It is completely covered in fire, so he could get hurt. Ian jumps to the other side to avoid getting hurt by either the fire or the monster. The next second, one of the trees is torn to pieces, which the boy himself did not expect. The schoolboy does not understand at all what exactly is happening here, how the tree could explode. We see how the entire forest is gradually covered in fire as the monsters quickly spread it. Now all your monsters turn their gaze to Jan, who was also standing with a torch. The monster is already very close, but the young man is trying to escape from them all as quickly as possible. But then suddenly someone pours water on one of the trees while the boy is lying on the ground. The brown-eyed man can't believe his eyes, because the monster really did stop. This is a man who is watering trees with a hose. He tells us to come to him quickly because the tree will also explode soon. The gray-haired man was right. The next second, the monster explodes right in front of Jan's face. The man takes the boy by the hand, but he says that he has comrades who need to be saved. The gray-haired man says that now there is no need to think about comrades, but you need to think about yourself. The man continues to lead the young man into the thicket until he remembers that there was no path on the map. The grandfather runs to the hatch, which he opens, and then throws the schoolboy into it. The brown-eyed man doesn't understand anything at all and is trying to get up from the floor where he was thrown. The boy looks around the room while the gray-haired man calmly walks down the steps. Jan asks where exactly they are, because he has never seen anything like this before. The man sits the boy down on the bed so that he can recover from such a shock. The grandfather says that this is his home, which the man built before the end of the world began. Afterwards, the gray-haired man asks where the boy himself is from, since he is wearing a school uniform. Brown-eyed remembers his companions, but his grandfather tells him to forget about them, since they most likely died. Nayan continues to stand his ground until the gray-haired man starts shouting to tell the boy. Grandfather says that it is best to go out when there is sun, because then the trees will calm down. The man is still trying to convince his younger brother that it is dangerous to walk alone on the surface. Brown-eyed calms down and decides to come to the surface only at sunrise. At this time, the grandfather offers the boy some canned food, which he has here as a reserve for emergencies. The schoolboy is hesitant about accepting food from strangers, but the man insists. The younger one agrees with his grandfather's words about the need to eat well before a sortie. The brown-eyed man cries because of how delicious the man's food is. Apparently, he hasn't eaten properly for a long time. The old man offers to wash down the canned food with water, feeling sorry for the boy for his difficult fate. Then we are shown the man's face from a strange angle. Apparently, he poisoned the water. The gray-haired man asks from which side did Jan come, whether from the main gate. The young man says that they came here by train, talking about his friends. The schoolboy, like an open book, answers any questions the old man asks without even thinking about the consequences. Grandpa has a strange face again. He asks how many people are left. Apparently, he wants to harm everyone. The gray-haired man then asks what exactly is in the boy's backpack. He wants to give him supplies to take with him. The schoolboy refuses to eat, saying it's too much, to which the man replies that he can take the bed. Jan can't even agree here, but the old man insists, because this bed is specially for guests. The brown-eyed man was put to bed and told to get a good night's sleep for the next day, but the young man was anxious. The boy thinks about his grandfather, that he is calm and energetic. He really is not afraid of anything. The schoolboy blames himself for the fact that the man even fed him, and the man still suspects him of something. Thinking about his friends, the boy is very worried that suddenly they have nothing to eat or drink at all. The brown-eyed man calls out to his grandfather, asking if he is asleep, what the young man has planned this time. Brown-eyed wants to take one of the cans of peaches to share with his comrades. Why does the chocolate-haired man understand that this is not the way to treat the person who gave him shelter? The young man puts the jar back and returns to his bed to try to sleep. We see that the grandfather is still not sleeping. He has a creepy look. He apparently really has something in mind. The action shifts to our protagonist and Sophie, who continue to fight. Longhair says she lost her gun when she rolled down the hill, so they are unarmed. Blue Eyes asks if the scary one is okay, to which she replies that it's just a trifle. While his comrades were running back and forth, Harry lost his direction, and the spectators say that they are having a hard time. But the brown-haired man's attention was drawn to one trelly that was going in a different direction from the others. We see the same polar bear cub we met earlier sitting on this tree. The plush toy actively waves its hand at the hero while he finally makes out the silhouette. Does the bear really want the blue-eyed one to follow him? But then Sophie shouts at the guy. He grabs the long-haired girl by the hand, saying that they need to go in a certain direction. The brown-eyed woman wonders if the hero was able to remember the way to the central entrance. The bear jumps down and the brown-haired man says that he has finally come down, but the lady does not understand what he is talking about. The plush toy picks up speed, moving a little further away from the main characters. The blue-eyed man already has 30 yen saved up, so he will open any chest that is offered to him. The brown-haired man sincerely asks for the chest to finally appear on his path when suddenly something puzzles him. The streamer makes a big face. Is there really something so disgusting in front of him? There is a chest in front of the guy that costs 72 yen. The main character is very unlucky. The brunette is very annoyed by such price increases, comparing them to electricity bills. While the blue-eyed man is tearing his hair out in front of the chest, Sophie doesn't understand anything at all. The gamer tries to explain to her what the matter is, but she doesn't understand at all because she doesn't see the chest. The long-haired girl tries to bring the guy to his senses by slapping him on the cheeks with all her might. Brown-eyed says that the monsters are advancing and they have no time to whine. The main character was completely depressed because of this chest, trying to figure out what to do next. Suddenly water appears, but the blue-eyed man was thinking that they needed to get fire. The water washes over many tree monsters that stand right in front of their comrades. The trees suddenly stop, causing even the brown-eyed girl to be shocked by what is happening. A dark-haired man appears on the horizon, calling the heroes to him, supposedly to help. Shatton is surprised that there are still people here, especially in such a dangerous place like this. The guy says there's a shelter right behind him. He's dressed in a gardener's uniform or something similar. The action shifts again to the schoolboy, who is lying in bed, mumbling something. Jan wonders what's wrong with him, because his body feels like lead and his head is floating. The grandfather wakes up from the boy's painful groans, saying that it is still a long way until dawn. The brown-eyed man complains to the old man that he feels very bad. He is very sleepy. The man looks very creepy, saying that there is nothing wrong with this and that he should try to sleep. Then the gray-haired man says that he will look after the younger one, but he also looks creepy. The brown-eyed man tries to get out of bed to look at the man. He wonders if he was really poisoned. The old man replies that it is better not to resist, because otherwise he will feel even worse. Grandfather says that everything will be over by morning. But what does this mean? This is all his. The boy is worried. But the man continues to answer very vaguely, to which the young man asks a direct question about what he did to him. The old man replies that he is only saving the boy, but he does not agree with this, starting a squabble. The gray-haired man points to the jars and says that it is because the boy touched them. It turns out that the old man had smeared them with something, and the schoolboy didn't even notice it when he touched them. It was a strong drug that had already affected the brown-eyed man. What a horror. The old man says that he gets this drug from the tree monsters that roam the garden. The chocolate-haired man falls out of bed, to which the man says that the drug itself is no stronger than a sleeping pill. The gray-haired man helps the young man get up and then lie down on the bed. But Jan himself wants to be let go. But the creepy old man doesn't listen to him at all, replying that they can chat in the morning. Under the influence of the drug, the brown-eyed man really does fall asleep. But why would the grandfather do that at all? The action shifts to the main character, who is being persuaded to go to the bunker. But the black-haired one insists that the hero go down. He agrees, but will not do it first. All this seems too suspicious to the blue-eyed man. He checks the surroundings. Closing the door to the bunker behind him, he goes down while the guy is telling something. The owner's home is strangely arranged, with wall cabinets everywhere with piles of books on them. The man then introduces himself as Mason, to which Sophie also introduces herself. Afterwards, the brown-haired man takes the initiative, also introducing himself by his name. There's tension between the two guys right away. Don't trust Mason. There is a dialogue between all the characters about how the guy lives here in general. Sophie suddenly asks the main character for water. Apparently, such a fight is very exhausting. To which the black-haired man replies that he has water reserves and they can use them. Blue-eyed refuses such a gesture, arguing that they are indebted to the guy. The young man smiles affably at the closed cupboards with provisions, but we see those same jars of peaches. The long-haired girl whispers and asks if something is bothering Harry, and he replies that he can't take any risks yet. The black-haired man says the same thing as his grandfather, namely that monsters become weak in the sun. The brown-eyed girl asks if she can lie down on the bed, and upon receiving an affirmative nod, she immediately lies down. Blue Eyes thinks that he needs to maintain the appearance of an unsuspecting person. The main character is thinking about how the new acquaintance will cause them problems. At some point, Harry opens his eyes because he feels that something strange is happening. The audience tells him to wake up as soon as possible, while we see everything through the eyes of the gamer. The brown-haired man opens his eyes and we finally see what's going on. Mason is doing something suspicious. Blue-eyed is very scared when he sees such a card in front of his eyes, asking the young man what he is doing. The guy replies that the streamer's sudden awakening scared him, then explains that he is trying to hide the hero. The audience laughs at Mason looking so suspicious, and Harry himself is tired. But the friend actually ends up with a pillow and a blanket in his hands, for which the main character thanks him. Blue-eyed is really standing on the floor, breathing out tiredly. You can't relax around this guy. But the brown-haired man was really very tired. The guy couldn't remember the last time he slept on a bed. After remembering about his other Yana, hoping that everything is okay with him now. But immediately after this, the audience wakes him up because you can't sleep at such an hour, which makes him even more furious. We see how sweetly Sophie sleeps on her bed. Harry sincerely envies her naivety. Blue-eyed pinches his thigh, thinking that now he needs to keep his eyes open. Then we are shown the bunker again. The surprising thing is that Sophie is alone lying on the bed. The brown-haired man waited for Mason to fall asleep, and only then did he get up from the mattress. The guy checks the bunker while simultaneously communicating with his viewers, who are called his distrustful ones. The blue-eyed man doubts the dark-haired man because he put himself in danger to save strangers. Examining the bunker in more detail, the protagonist tries to find out what exactly the stranger is doing. The brown-haired man looks at all those jars of peaches, saying that Mason is very well stocked. The young man takes one of the jars into his hands to examine it in as much detail as possible. Harry notices that the logo on the lid is different from the logo on the can of peaches itself. Discussing this situation with the audience, the blue-eyed man tries to understand what is best to do next. The protagonist leaves the jar alone, moving closer and closer to the dark-haired man, calling him an idiot. Mason suddenly wakes up, not understanding what is happening around him and what Harry is doing. The brown-haired man twisted the stranger, blocking his access to movement while he was distracted. The gamer tries to find the truth by asking the dark-haired guy many questions, including the one that the guy started screaming before the streamer touched him. Such screams wake up Sophie, who did not expect that she would actually be able to sleep. The main character asks to bring a brown-eyed sheet because he wants to tie up the guy. The girl obeys the young man without the slightest hesitation, saying that she knew Mason would do something. Harry is surprised by the confidence in his voice, saying that someone who was so confident in this would not snore so loudly. Now you can sleep, but the audience tells the gamer to tie his hands and feet so that everything is okay. Mason himself is shocked by this turn of events, asking what is even going on. Blue-eyed replies that this is a temporary measure and they will definitely untie him in the morning, but now it's time to sleep. To which the dark-haired man asks Sophie for help, thinking that at least the girl can help him. But the brunette doesn't care either. She asks to be patient until the morning, because tomorrow everything will be different. The stranger asks for forgiveness from his comrades, who are very sleepy. Then we see how Mason himself has already fallen asleep, although he was tied up and not in a very comfortable position. Sophie is the first to wake up from some strange sound that she hears outside. Longhair tries to wake Harry up so that they can figure out what's going on together. It turns out that the young man set an alarm clock before going to bed, but it is not the alarm clock that makes such strange sounds. Mason wakes up and asks to be untied since the girl is no longer sleeping, because the young man does not sleep all night, according to him. The brown-eyed girl is happy that at least she was able to get some sleep, clearly mocking the guy. Fortunately, the sound from above no longer comes, which clearly pleases the typist. Sophie tries to wake up the main character, but unfortunately, she doesn't succeed at all. Afterwards, the brown-eyed girl asks the dark-haired man what's wrong with her friend, to which he doesn't know the answer. The girl starts shaking the guy, but he denies everything and does not give any answers to the questions. Longhair is sure that Mason did something, but he replies that she is taking out her anger on him. This time the girl uses brute force, to which the bound man laughs, asking if she really wants to know. He points his gaze at those very jars of peaches, but the brown-eyed girl still doesn't understand. The dark-haired man says that all the tin cans she sees are covered in poison. Dark Eyes says that he catches thieves like him and Harry because they don't know gratitude. Sophie is too angry for all this. She asks to give her the antidote immediately. But Mason shakes his head, replying that he doesn't remember anything about the antidote and that there isn't one. The brown-eyed girl runs out of patience and hits the guy in the face with her knee with all her might. The young man comes to his senses and replies that he didn't expect the driver to be so impudent. The girl swings her arm, saying that she has no reason to let him go if he won't tell her the antidote. But the dark-haired man looks distantly at the ceiling, answering that he doesn't need to be untied. Suddenly, Mason bursts into flames, causing Sophie to jump back from his body, clearly not expecting this. The guy says he had a lighter in his pocket and was wearing flammable clothing. Brown-Eyed calls him a complete list, watching him burn alive. To which the young man himself replies that she is a log that continued to burn. Apparently, he has gone crazy. Mason says that everything in the bunker is fuel for the fire, to which the girl tries to put it out, but she fails. Sophie needs to do something urgently, because at this rate Harry will die, just like her. The typist realizes that she needs to use the water from the hose in the bathroom as soon as possible. The dark-haired man tries to say at least one word clearly while the typist puts it out. The man breaks the ropes on his wrists. He is truly glad to be free. The young man takes the lady by the hand, at which point she throws the hose out of her hands, trying to get out. Mason pins the long-haired one against the wall, telling her to try to free herself now. The brown-eyed girl hits the freak with her knee in his crotch to get out. The girl chokes on smoke while the young man tries to recover from such a blow. Sophie's eyes become wet from all the smoke that has accumulated in the small bunker. 73. Longhair tries to find the main character in order to quickly get him out of the room. Suddenly, a crazy person appears in front of the brown-eyed girl, putting on a gas mask. The typist wants to finish it as quickly as possible, but the young man throws the girl onto her back. The brunette reaches for one of the scent jars of peaches, but it falls. Seeing this, Mason says that this is not the way to treat vital food products. But afterwards, the young man thanks them because both heroes became good fertilizer for him. The guy says that he actually grew the trees and they caused them great harm. Then the dark-haired man tells us about that same grandfather, saying that if he had burned down, he would also have been used as fertilizer by him. The brown-eyed girl screams the main character's name with all her might, hoping for at least some kind of miracle. The madman says that the poison in the jars knocks out an adult for at least half a day. Therefore, the girl should not worry about Harry, because he will definitely not be able to come to his senses. But suddenly, Sophie feels the fresh air that she so badly dreamed of at this moment. And then we see the main character, who opened the hatch in the bunker to help his girlfriend. The blue-eyed man looks at the long-haired woman with a joyful smile, letting the sun's rays into the room. The madman tries to understand how the gamer managed to recover from the drug. The young man ignores all of Mason's questions, asking what he would do if the staircase burned down. The dark-haired man is in a stupor because he still can't understand how exactly the hero is now on his feet. The brunette replies that the stranger will pay for what he did to Harry's body, to which the audience laughs. The streamer immediately twists the opponent's arm, calmly standing in front of him while Mason screams in pain. The burnt one tries to escape from his enemy's grip, swinging his other hand. Harry is making fun of the boy in front of him in every way, which is very much in his nature. Blue Eyes still answers that he recovers faster than other people, which is why he was able to survive. Taking off Mason's gas mask, the streamer squeezed his throat in his hand. Was he really going to end up like this? Then, the burnt one pretends to be a zombie, starting to attack the guy, which he immediately notices. But then, suddenly, the dark-haired man is hit by his poisoned jar of peaches. We then see the typist punch the madman in the face, avenging herself. Longhair calls Mason a psycho, kicks him, and she really almost dies. But in the process, the main character stops her, taking her hand to bring her to her senses. The young man washes Sophie's hand, since she managed to touch the jar, and then asks if he woke up on time. At this, the long-haired one becomes embarrassed. Looking away slightly, she is clearly grateful to the hero. Harry says that they need to make sure that the arsonist can't escape and breaks the boy's leg. Blue Eyes smiles maniacally, amazed that Mason is still conscious. The guy writhes in pain, to which the brown-haired man says that it's strange because he set himself on fire. Suddenly, the young man began to scream very loudly, and it was he who was calling for help from that same grandfather. At this time, both heroes did not understand what exactly was happening and who Mason was so desperately calling. Blue-Eyed begins to suspect that there is someone in this garden other than the dark-haired one. After this, the action moves outside. We see someone digging a hole. It turns out that this is the same grandfather who poisoned Jan. He says that today was a lucky day. The next moment, we see a schoolboy lying as a messenger at the bottom of that very pit. The old man, with a terrible expression on his face, says that the boy needs to be buried as quickly as possible. The brown-eyed man himself barely understands anything. Opening his eyes, he tries to come to his senses. The younger one gets to his feet, starting to scream and ask what is going on here. The old man replies that he gave Jan as fertilizer to his trees, to which the young man breaks out in a sweat. The old man says that the roots will not harm him, they will simply suck out all the nutrients. Hearing this, the boy falls into a complete stupor, watching as he is gradually buried. The brown-eyed man loudly screams to be pulled out of the hole as quickly as possible, calling his grandfather crazy. The gray-haired man says that it is not proper for young men to swear like that, and that is why he loves plants. After all, if you don't feed the plants, they will quietly die. The boy asks the old man to shut his mouth to all these tales. The next second, a shovel flies into Jan's shoulder, and his grandfather says it's useless. The brown-eyed man screams in pain. This old man has completely gone crazy, starting to harm the boy. The gray-haired one tells the younger one not to waste his strength, because becoming plant food is a rebirth. The schoolboy tries to get rid of the roots that are crawling towards his feet, but it's all useless. The brown-eyed man again continues to beg his grandfather to let him go, insulting him even more. To this, the old man himself replies that he noticed how ignorant the boy had become. The old man throws the shovel into the hole again, but this time Jan was able to dodge another attack. But the shovel still managed to hit the younger boy right on the wrists, causing him to scream. It turns out that this was the guy's plan, and the grandfather's actions cut the rope on his wrists. Very tired, Jan grabs the shovel that was so close to him, saying that he will kill the gray-haired man. The young man pulls the shovel, and the grandfather falls into the hole, unable to hold on to the slope. Justice has prevailed. The next moment, we see the old man lying at the very bottom of the pit, writhing in pain. Finally, they were able to switch places so that the crazy person could understand what it was like. The schoolboy also asks if there is anyone in this forest besides his grandfather and his friends. The gray-haired man replies that he doesn't know, but perhaps Sophie and Harry were taken by his grandson. Jan's face immediately changes. All the sparkle in his eyes disappears and his mood becomes more angry. But suddenly the grandfather picks up a stone from the ground and hits the boy right in the shoulder with all his might. After which, the old man, as quickly as possible, tries to get to the shovel, which is not so far away. But the young man manages to kick his gray-haired man right in the stomach with all his might, causing him to scream. We see that the boy manages to grab the shovel first, which gives him a great advantage. The schoolboy hits the old man's stomach with a shovel with all his might, which even frightens him. Afterwards, the brown-eyed girl hits the grandfather's leg with the sharp part of the shovel, which is why blood is visible on the man's suit. The gray-haired man asks to wait at least a little. If the boy kills him, then he will not be able to find his companions. Finally, the madman asks me if Yana really doesn't care, but we see the young man's angry look. The schoolboy still asks where his comrades are, to which the old man replies that the roads here are very confusing and he himself will not understand anything. But the schoolboy doesn't care about this. The sparkle in his eyes disappears and his gaze becomes more cruel. The gray-haired man still tells where exactly his comrades are, thinking that the boy will not be able to find this place himself. Covered in a cold sweat, the gray-haired man asks not to kill him because Jan is still young. But the schoolboy doesn't care at all about this, answering that he is at the age when everything is allowed. The boy smiles as he says that he has memorized the entire guidebook, so he knows everything about the area. After this, we see the sharp corner of the shovel being driven into something and blood splattering everywhere. Then the action shifts to the main character, who asks his audience for something. In front of the young man stands the very same chest, which requires 72 yen to open. Harry repeats the amount again, and the audience understands that he is asking them for money. Blue Eyes tries to provoke the commentators by saying that there is clearly something cool in the chest, but they don't care. At this, the brown-haired man withdraws into himself even more, and the audience asks if he is crying. To this, the gamer takes everything into his own hands. Literally, he tries to open the chest with his bare hands. But all attempts prove futile. The chest still stands completely invisible. The streamer tries to come up with something else, but viewers laugh at him, asking him to give up the idea. One of the spectators suggests spinning the roulette wheel, but the main character hears about it for the first time. But this doesn't help the blue-eyed man at all, because he won't be able to open the chest right now anyway. The user named is the only one asking if Harry really wants to open it. The brunette is already interested in the offer, but is the only one who sets his own conditions. Everything the young man earns belongs to only one person, but the boy agrees. The only one gives him 35 yen, after which we see Sophie looking for Harry. We see a young man emerging from the forest with an axe, saying that he was looking for a new weapon. And this axe looks really scary, because it is not an ordinary wooden axe. The action shifts to Jan, who finally climbs out of the hole, covered in blood and tired. We see how the gray-haired one is embraced by a large number of roots that suck the juices out of him. The action shifts back to Harry and Sophie, who are running towards something that is deeply disturbing them. It turns out to be a schoolboy, covered in sweat and blood, lying exhausted on the ground. There is a long trail of blood behind the boy, which suggests that he is dead. The gamer takes his friend into his arms and tries to bring him to his senses, saying that he is in shock. Blue-Eyed lifts the boy's body onto his back, intending to carry him to the medical center. Not far from them, the heroes find a small barn and decide to stay there. The brown-haired man swings his axe to cut the lock on the barn because they urgently need help. But the axe can't cut the lock. We see how the lock has lost 1 health point. Blue Eyes can't understand what's going on here and why his weapon is so weak. But after the second hit, the lock still gives in and breaks, receiving 2 points of damage. The protagonist rolls an iron cart out of the barn, but Sophie is very surprised by this. The next moment, we see the schoolboy being taken somewhere on this iron cart. After some time, all the heroes find themselves near the hospital building, in a great hurry. The long-haired woman opens the front door of the room, saying that it seems like there is no one in the hospital. The brown-haired and brown-eyed women put the young man on a stretcher. The main character asks if the typist knows what to do. But the girl is not quite sure. The guy checks the shelves and finds absolutely nothing. The streamer is going to go to another room to look for some drugs there. Going out into one of the corridors, the young man hears some strange sounds and stops. Afterwards, the blue-eyed man asks his viewers if they heard this strange sound. Shaitan thinks that this is another villain, and if this turns out to be true, then Yan is in great danger. The next second, the guy runs into the office with Sophie and the boy, saying that they need to leave immediately. Harry justifies this with his bad feeling, carefully adjusting the schoolboy's head. The boy asks Sophie to hold the boy's legs, when suddenly we see a female silhouette in the doorway. The brown-eyed woman tells the hero about this, and we see that it is a nurse, who smiles sweetly. The woman talks about the smell of blood, which she felt so clearly she has big bags under her eyes. Sophie and Harry protect the body of the defenseless boy with their bodies, clearly not trusting the woman. But the nurse doesn't listen to him. Walking deeper into the room, passing through doors, She really doesn't care about her own safety. To which she replies no. Because of this answer, the main character is very confused, because he did not expect this at all. The nurse replies that if they leave the hospital, the boy will die permanently. She describes what exactly happened to the schoolboy, as if she wanted to cure him. The long-haired girl says that they need to leave because this girl is very strange. The nurse is behaving very inappropriately, saying that everyone says she is strange. The brown-eyed girl tries to move as far away from her new acquaintance as possible, but she doesn't pay attention to it. The girl shows her student ID. Her name is Karen, and she studied at the nursing department. Blue Eyes is very surprised by this, asking the viewers if there are supports in this game. The nurse asks to let her help this boy, because if he just stands there, he will soon die. The girl completely goes crazy, assuming that the heroes would have done everything wrong and finished off the young man. The brunette is very frightened by her behavior, as are all the viewers, saying that she is a very dubious doctor. The girl again asks to let her help a patient who needs her help so much. Blue-Eyed is amazed by such a quick change of personalities of the nurse. He really does not know what to do. The girl continues to smile sweetly. She has beautiful gray eyes, bags under her eyes, and wavy hair. The brown-eyed man is asked how he feels, and he opens his eyes a little, thinking it is Harry. But in front of the young man there appears the same old man with a frightening smile on his face. The man thrusts the sharp end of the shovel into the boy's body with all his might while he is very scared. The brown-eyed man is in agony, screaming at the top of his lungs from the pain he is experiencing right now. We are then shown how many tree roots wrap around the boy's arms and legs. The young man continues to scream from all that pain. Most likely he is having the worst nightmare. A schoolboy suddenly wakes up from a nightmare, covered in cold sweat and bandages. His friends are next to him and immediately notice that the younger one has awakened. The comrades immediately ask a lot of questions to the young man who just woke up. Shaitan is glad that Ian is okay, as is Sophie, who was also very worried about his condition. The boy begins to cry with happiness. The audience supports him and sincerely empathizes. But the first thing the schoolboy asked when he stood up was what happened to the old man. Sophie answered that he died. The brown-eyed man doesn't understand where exactly they are and who this girl is standing next to. Karen introduces herself, then says that it was she who saved him at that moment. The young man thanks her for her help, and the nurse looks very proud of her work. Blue Eyes is amazed by Karen's skills, wondering if he can take her with him with such a character. But since Jan has already woken up, we can move on further on the road, after which we see the hospital again. After they leave the building, the brown-haired man asks the younger one to climb on his back. The gamer points to the cart, saying that otherwise he will ride on it. The boy is surprised that he was brought on this. The protagonist then thanks Karen for all the help she has given him while Sophie searches for something in her bag. The long-haired woman hands the girl several bags of food, telling her to take it. The whole team discusses the fact that the schoolboy needs to sit on the hero's back for now. At this time, Karen cannot understand anything, standing on the threshold of the university hospital. Longhair notices that something strange is happening because there are no zombies on the streets. The gamer agrees with her words, asking everyone to be on guard even though everything seems very calm. Ian says he can walk on his own now, but the streamer insists he's not tired at all. But still, the younger one manages to convince the older one, after which Sophie asks if they are hungry. The typist points to the gas cylinders, saying they could use them to start a fire. Entering the store, the boy notices that it has a very pleasant atmosphere, becoming embarrassed. There are no zombies in the room, which is very good for the comrades who are examining the room. The boy suggests opening the refrigerator and seeing what's in there, but the main character dissuades him. Blue Eyes says that there is no sound coming from the refrigerator, so most likely everything in there has gone rotten. The schoolboy takes his hand back, saying that the elder is indeed right. By this time, the girl had already found everything she needed for her next meal and water. Harry thinks that there must be a 24-hour store nearby, and he is going to go there. The audience comments on this whole situation, joking about the refrigerator. This question is closed. Shaitan says that he is poor before viewers donate and asks them to donate more often. The guy sweeps almost all the food that would still be fit for consumption off the shelves. Blue Eyes says that he'd better pass by the shelves with fresh food because it's all spoiled. Afterwards, the young man says that he will go from this store to his friends because he took everything he needed. But outside we see Karen watching the guy, which makes him very scared. Harry then asks the audience to pay closer attention to what is going on behind his back. The guy asks the curly-haired girl if she had been following him all this time, clearly not trusting the girl. Then the blue-eyed man invites her inside. The nurse with a sweet face is only happy about this. The brunette asks why she followed them if her comrades had already paid her for her help. Curly asks the young man to take her with him because she is very useful and worries about Yan. The main character says that this is not true because if she cared about the boy, she would have followed him. The thing is that the girl desperately wants to be part of the team, so she was following the leader. The streamer realizes that this is probably Karen's true essence, which he hid behind her injuries. Curly gains confidence when she thinks she's being useful, but now she's lost control of the situation. Blue Eyes agrees that she will be on their team because the girl is really very useful. But in turn, the guy has his own condition for the girl to be able to join the team. The action moves forward a few minutes when Harry has already brought food to his friends. Blue-Eyed says that he will cook right away, so it is necessary to prepare the dishes. The brown-haired man asks to trust him because he always cooked on his own, because he lived alone. Turning on the stove, the young man thinks that he needs to finish it in 30 minutes. Sophie and Ian are fascinated by his cooking, as it is the first time they have seen Harry cook something on his own. From what we can see, the main character really knows how to cook well. The food looks good. The young man flies everything masterfully, bending his fingers as if he really were a chef. The gamer really knows what he's doing, sometimes asking his friends to prepare food for him. The audience guesses that he did this whole performance on purpose, but for what purpose? Ian is truly amazed by his elder's cooking skills, while Sophie is simply shocked. The brown-eyed man, trying the food, starts to cry because the food that turned out is really very tasty. The long-haired one is also amazed by the taste of the dish, weaving everything into both her cheeks. But the main character himself eats everything that is on the table as quickly as possible without enjoying the food. The younger one asks Harry to drink water, caring about him, because otherwise the boy's stomach will hurt. Suddenly, the blue-eyed man says that if he does anything reckless, they must accept it. The typist asks where he is going, since the brown-haired man has just finished his lunch. The action moves to the curly-haired girl who is sitting near the store and waiting for the main character to arrive. The gamer calls the girl by name, which immediately makes her blossom, responding instantly. The nurse is glad that the guy finally came back for her, just as the brown-haired man promised. The gamer specifically set the condition that the girl must first wait half an hour. This gave the blue-eyed man confidence that Karen could indeed be controlled. Curly breaks out in a cold sweat, saying that she has already started to worry. The brunette notices that the nurse dropped her student ID card while picking it up from the asphalt. But Karen replies that she no longer needs her student card, and the young man is surprised by this. Blue-eyed notices that one of the first numbers on the ticket has been pasted over another. Kudryavaya admits that she is actually a sophomore, but after she encountered the military, she lied. After all, they said that the car would only fit a limited number of people and that they would only take senior students. But it still didn't help, and so Karen no longer needs this card. But the young man insists that the girl take her student ID with her because now she has nothing to fear. This deeply touches the soul of the curly-haired girl, causing her gaze to soften even more and a blush to appear. Afterwards, the girl simply beams with happiness, thanking Harry for all the words he said. She will provide any help. The girl then asks if she can call the guy Mr. Harry, to which he walks away in shock, but now he has no choice. The brown-haired man is really shocked, and this is what makes the audience start making fun of him. The action shifts to Sophie and Jan, who stand with their mouths open and cannot believe their eyes. Both heroes are shocked that Harry did not consult with them before accepting Karen into the team. The main character tries to explain why he brought the curly-haired girl to his comrades. Both learn that the nurse was abandoned by her former comrades, and that is why she was alone in the hospital. Blue-eyed asks to accept his decision as it is and leave the girl. If they both trust the protagonist, then the friends are obliged to take Karen in, because she has nowhere to go. The brown-eyed man agrees to this immediately, which leaves the typist in complete shock, trying to resist him. Ian says that it was this girl who saved his life, so he owes her a lot. Then the boy asks to accept Karen because she is all alone, and it is not right to make everything out like this. The long-haired girl agrees with the young man's thoughts, saying that she will not be alone against it. After the heroes decided that they would all go together, the curly-haired girl's eyes lit up. Harry then tells the whole team that Karen said there are a lot of those trellis from the Botanical Garden here, to which both comrades respond uncertainly, since it has been very quiet here all this time. The gamer hits one of the trees with his axe and something pours out of it that doesn't look like tree sap. The others watch it from inside the room, discussing how it really doesn't look like juice. The streamer hits the tree again, and the red mark on it increases. These were not health points. Blue-Eyed tries to understand what this is. Is this some kind of score that is being kept for his blows? The brown-eyed woman opened the doors of the room, saying that the brown-haired man needed to come inside quickly. Someone started broadcasting on the radio. The man said that he was contacting people who were trying to survive on their own. He then tells them to come to the survivors' camp, which is run by one of the units. The man also says that you need to go to the train station and look for people there. After adding that the country has not abandoned them, the brown-haired man then asks where this radio came from. The brown-eyed woman explains that it was always there, and she turned it on while the young man was away. Blue-Eyed continues to reason out loud, while the audience also analyzes the situation. Sophie asks what exactly they should do, since the situation is now very questionable. The streamer says that they need to go to the nearest bus station, looking at everyone with determination. The action moves outside, the sky becomes darker, but clouds also float across it. All the comrades follow each other. The schoolboy notes that it will most likely rain soon. Brown-Eyed says the bus station is very dangerous and she hopes Harry has a backup plan. The main character's real goal is the car, because if someone actually responds to the message, then perhaps he will have transport. At this, the curly one falls into shock because she does not want to harm anyone, because she took an oath. Harry finds it hard to believe, but Karen assures him that it is the truth. The schoolboy tries to calm the girl down, saying that someone will definitely just leave the car like that. But first, all the people need to get to the nurses' shelter, which is nearby. The girl points in the direction, saying that they have just a little bit left, and it is around the corner. Curly steps forward to show the way, asking people to wait a little longer. Then we hear some voices, and the blue-eyed man immediately tenses up, dodging to the side. He grabs the girl who was walking in front by the collar of her shirt and pulls her back behind the wall. We see another group trying to find something. They are discussing heatedly that it is something nearby. Afterwards, one of them says that we need to go to work. He has a bat in his hands. All this makes us feel uneasy. Brown-haired asks everyone to wait a bit and then come out of hiding. Sophie asks who these guys are. Blue-Eyed replies that he doesn't know them, but it's best not to mess with them because they don't inspire confidence. We see John's strange reaction, who breaks out in a cold sweat and remains silent. After a few minutes, the heroes can already go further. The whole sky is covered with dark clouds. Curly says they're there, pointing to something below while the others look surprised. She points to a manhole that is located right in the asphalt, saying that she lives here. Sophie is amazed that Karen lives underground, while the schoolboy is not very keen on going underground again. Then the nurse shows off something, saying that she found it at a nearby construction site. Then she opens the hatch. Someone asks what they are going to do. Are they going to go underground again? The typist breaks out in a cold sweat, hearing some strange sound, turning around to look at him. This is another tree that is ready to attack, and the heroes decide to go down as quickly as possible. Curly is asked to close the hatch cover and go down. The girl obeys this decision. We see part of Trelly, which is tied to a rope near the hatch. The curly one shines a flashlight on it. Blue-Eyed is very surprised by this find, while the viewers continue to comment. The monster crawled out of the hatch, catching its roots on the hatch cover, and began to drag her back. Then the creature closed the hatch cover on its own. The main character asks the nurse how she made it do this. Curly explains that this is the root of a tree, that is, the root of that very trelly that is outside. The girl explains roughly how exactly this whole system works, but she did not teach the root of it. Hearing this, all the heroes open their mouths in shock. This whole system sounds very strange. Looking at their faces, the nurse asks if everything is okay because the heroes look stunned. Harry calls Karen a real talent for being able to come up with such a system. Looking around, Jan asks if the girl decorated her house herself. Curly replies that it is her, but all these items are in the store nearby. The gamer finds records of experiments on those tree monsters that are located above. The brown-eyed woman also notes how beautifully the nurse decorated everything here. The long-haired girl is surprised that the girl even has additional accessories. Karen is truly delighted by all the comments from friends about her beloved home. The typist continues to destroy the curly girl's house while the boy asks if they can spend the night. Suddenly, the main character puts Jan on the best bed, telling him that he needs to get a good night's sleep. Blue-eyed hands out extra sets of linen to everyone, telling them that they need to go to bed. Finally, all four friends settled down and made their bed linen. Looking at his surroundings, Harry reflects that today was a very strange day. Finally, the gamer tells his viewers to wake him up if something happens while he's sleeping. To the comments of his viewers, the blue-eyed man gradually falls asleep, finally finding himself in good conditions. After some time, the brown-haired man wakes up from the scream of some girl who spent almost all the money on him. Harry gets out of bed, not understanding what exactly is happening, gradually coming to his senses. Looking around, he realizes that both girls are still asleep. So whose voice was that then? Afterwards, the blue-eyed man sees that the root is behaving strangely, starting to beat against the hatch cover. The audience says that the main character has finally woken up, but he doesn't understand at all what they're talking about. A viewer says she spent a lot of money to talk to Harry on speakerphone while he was sleeping. While the gamer was on the phone, the speakerphone function was available, which surprised the guy himself. Then, the brown-haired man tries to wake up his friends to warn everyone about the danger. Karen wakes up with a scary expression on her face, which scares the streamer himself. The protagonist points to the root, telling her to do something with it. The nurse says it's because water is dripping on him from the outside. That's why he reacts that way. Having calmed down, the blue-eyed man says that the girl can sleep, to which she falls asleep again. A few seconds later, a heavy downpour begins, seeping through the hatch. Harry wakes up again from the loudspeaker, opening his eyes to see what's going on. A viewer asks him to inspect the situation. The water in the sewer has risen sharply. The guy screams loudly, starting to wake up all four friends this time in order to save themselves. Sophie and Jan don't understand what's going on. The boy is too sleepy and the long-haired girl is inattentive. The nurse doesn't ask any unnecessary questions and is already collecting all her personal belongings in order to leave quickly. The brunette realizes that the situation they are in is simply disgusting and they need to get out quickly. The typist asks what the best course of action is, whether they should even go outside. Harry asks his viewers if they know exactly how trellis behave when it rains. Karen hands the protagonist a raincoat, saying that she kept it just in case. The gamer understands that if they go outside now, they will most likely encounter trelly. The schoolboy reports that the water has already reached his knees, while Sophie is getting ready. Blue Eyes tells everyone to grab the ladder and get ready to climb up. The audience tells him that it might be a rainy day, but the boy has no idea what they are talking about. The commentators explain that there are monsters here that are responsible for the weather, and they can arrange all this. But Harry takes the stone into his hands. He is really determined to take the most decisive action. Climbing the steps, Sophie asks what's going on while the brown-haired man throws a stone. After that, we see a large creature, somewhat similar to an alligator. The schoolboy gets very scared, asking if it's a crocodile, but Gar asks him to get up faster. The guy asks what kind of monster it is, to which the audience answers that it is an alacroco. The nurse reports that the hatch won't open. Apparently, something is pressing on it from above. The brown-haired man is either covered in cold sweat or it's raindrops falling on his face. Outside, we see Trelly, who is outside in the middle of the rain and won't leave because of the pain. With his roots, he blocked the way for all the heroes, so that now they have no way out at all. Viewers speculate that perhaps the protagonist needs to kill the alacroco, but Harry himself does not believe it. Blue-Eyed tries to think of something as quickly as possible, asking Karen again about the root. Trellis root can indeed grow, but it will require a lot of water to do so. Unsheathing his axe, the protagonist asks to be allowed to the very beginning of the stairs. The brown-haired man instantly cuts the rope that holds the root and it flies straight into a large amount of water. The gamer watches as the root falls into the water, waiting for something to finally happen to it. The audience starts to joke about how everything didn't go according to plan, but something starts to happen underwater. The streamer then asks if Karen will ever grow roots, which she finds. The girl is not sure about this because she has never thrown her roots into the water like that. The next moment, we see the root emerge from the water, clinging to the walls of the heat. The brown-haired man smiles because his plan went exactly as he expected. We see how the Karen root, which has grown greatly, fights with the Alacroco to the death. Now the roots cannot be stopped at all, and they continue to greedily absorb water. Eventually, the Alacroco was defeated, the creature screaming loudly, arching unnaturally. The brown-eyed man asks if everything is going well, because the picture in front of him is not particularly pleasant. The rain from above has stopped, but trelly, which Karen raised, has grown so much that even the viewers are shocked. The whole group climbs higher and higher up the stairs, hoping for their own salvation. The gamer continues to look at everything that is happening with a smile, clearly already thinking about something. Then the young man again draws the audience's attention to his axe, saying that it is not ordinary. The protagonist lets go of the ladder and falls straight into the drain of the canal, causing the audience to laugh. The rest of the team is shocked by his actions, but his viewers give him a common additional goal. Trelly needs to be killed with an axe, and Harry accepts the challenge, causing his friends to become worried. Curly doesn't understand at all what exactly the blue-eyed man is doing, but everyone tries to dissuade him. The streamer took this matter seriously, holding the axe tightly in his right hand as he headed towards the monster. The brown-haired man swings his weapon with all his might, raising it as high as possible, asking the audience to support him. Then he hits the tree with his axe with all his might, and we see a red mark. Trelly is hit with a provocation skill that will last for the next 10 minutes. The tree attacks the guy, but he manages to skillfully dodge its quick attack. Blue Eyes strikes the tree with his weapon again, this time with even greater force. The tree loses one of its limbs due to the impact, starting to leak sap. Harry is amazed at how good the axe is, but its true potential is still hidden. The long-haired girl is sincerely amazed by what she sees in front of her right now. Has the guy really gone crazy? The countdown of attacks is underway. The 6th is already underway. The schoolboy is also in complete shock from what is happening. But suddenly the brown-haired man is attacked by several roots at once, which are trying to harm him. But the gamer cuts them down without hesitation. The count increases to 7. What will happen next? Viewers also participate by warning the streamer of impending danger. Thanks to them, the blue-eyed one again dodges the attack and cuts through the roots of Trelly. Having struck again, the count rose to 9. What will happen if it rises to 10? On the 10th time, the axe gains additional power and Harry manages to cut the monster in half. The typist is amazed at what she found. Is the main character really that strong? It turns out that the countdown accumulates no matter which part you hit. The tree had already finished drinking the water that was in the canal, which is surprising because there was a lot of it there. But the blue-eyed man swings his axe at Trelly again. What did he have in mind this time? The young man decided to continue finishing off the creature, entering a new circle of his axe's countdown. A few minutes later, we already see the number 9 on the tree. The guy attacks very quickly. Harry tells his viewers about the firewood. He must really be having fun fighting. The young man makes another final 10th blow to Trelly, which again cuts the tree in half. The younger one is sincerely amazed by such strength of the main character, looking at him with surprise. Blue Eyes makes a lot of quick but not so strong blows this time, in fact. Brown-haired finally completes the mission and receives his reward. He is very exhausted. The gamer is really so exhausted that he can barely move. The audience supports him. Harry tells his friends that they can finally go down, to which all the boys are grateful. Jan asks the elder if the creature is really dead, testing it with his foot. Sophie asks him to move away from the creature because she is not at all sure that it is really dead. Karen is happy because she has more raw material for experiments. The hero himself is a little shocked. Blue Eye says that we need to hurry because it's not that safe here, especially since the rain has stopped. The action moves outside, and we see that the clouds are no longer as dark as they were before. All 4 heroes are standing in front of some building, all very determined. Curly warns everyone that they are in a dangerous zone and need to be more careful. The main character suggests that everyone arm themselves because it never hurts. The audience makes good-natured jokes about Harry already having a whole team, to which he chuckles affirmatively. Suddenly, everyone heard curses from the street and quickly hid behind the nearest shelter. We see a man outside the building. He has a bat in his hands. The guy is confusedly looking for something. Another man comes in who looks bigger, and they are both chasing someone. The third man tells them to be faster. They obediently obey him, running in the other direction. The typist asks what that was, while the gamer notes that they have seen these men before. Also, we can notice that all three people have the same tattoos, which means they are from the same gang. Then Harry notices the schoolboy's reaction, and he is covered in cold sweat. Brown-Eyed still can't get out of shock while his friends worry about him. Karen gently pokes his cheek to gently bring the young man back to his senses after the shock. The streamer asks if the boy is scared, then says that everything will be fine. But even after this, the schoolboy does not calm down much, sadly turning his gaze downwards. Harry is very worried about the younger one, saying that he will check the surroundings to calm him down. There is no one on the street, and the team can continue on their way. They calmly leave the store, looking around the area because the street is not safe. But suddenly some man runs out at them, shouting loudly, asking what happened. The man says that he really wants to live and the heroes are obliged to help him because he is in terrible danger. But a few minutes later, the man falls dead, as if someone had shot him. The young man was very shocked by this event. Could this really be the same gang that they saw? A scary man appears behind the man's dead body and says that he made him run. The man notices our heroes who are not doing anything yet. Then the bandit's gaze falls on the protagonist's hands, namely the axe that Harry holds in his hand. Several more bandits run up to the main one. The spectators are very worried, calling them wild dogs. Blue-Eyed whispers to the boys to get ready to run. He doesn't want to expose them to such danger. The main one with green hair cheekily asks what exactly is going on here. He calls the brown-eyed man by name, pointing his finger at him, wondering if they already know each other. The brown-haired man turns to the younger one, very surprised, asking if he knows this man. The boy starts to sweat heavily. His face also changes very much. He is really afraid. The green-haired man is getting closer and closer, but the main character asks him to stop, threatening him with an axe. Harry says that now they will all calm down and the team will calmly go in the other direction. But the bandits clearly do not agree with this state of affairs. Apparently they have something to do with the schoolboy. The head says that he and Jan haven't seen each other for a long time, and the young man doesn't even say hello. The brown-haired man says that he doesn't say hello because he doesn't want to. They can only say goodbye. The green-haired man says that he wants to talk specifically to the brown-eyed man. The brown-haired man shouldn't be responsible for him. Blue Eyes says that since nothing can be done, he will have to resort to this plan. The protagonist says that he has no choice but to make them feel sorry. The head says that the schoolboy and the gamer do not understand what they are getting into, because they are losers. The green-haired man continues that out of respect for Jan and the old days, he will count to 3. The man counts to 3, then hits the streamer with all his might, but the streamer hits back with his axe. The chief doesn't understand what's going on, jumping away from the guy, but he swings again. Blue-Eyed manages to seriously wound the enemy, so much so that blood flies in all directions. The rest of the bandits want to protect their leader and run as fast as they can to help him. But Harry manages to hurt them too. The guys really did underestimate the hero's strength. Both men are thrown a great distance away, clearly suffering very deep wounds. The green-haired man is clearly angry about this whole situation. He tries to get up from the asphalt. The main character approaches him, asking him to repeat the insult he said to the guy. Harry hits the man in the shoulder with his axe again, blood flying everywhere. The streamer asks the leader to continue, but he asks how long he will continue to act like a cool guy. The guy orders him to stand up and continue to resist. The audience laughs at the man's situation. The green-haired man actually tries to get up from the asphalt, taking the bat into his hands. The leader orders the gamers to shut up, but he replies that he is not a man's subordinate to obey. The man breaks out in a cold sweat, clearly becoming very nervous, asking the young man if he has any idea who they are. To which the blue-eyed man asks in response if the man knows who he is, clearly mocking him. The green-haired man's eyes turn white. He is really furious with the brown-haired man's behavior. Suddenly, the man gathers his strength and flies straight at the protagonist with his bat. But the main character, with the help of his super speed, was able to dodge another blow. Afterwards, he hits the enemy again with his axe, hitting approximately in the area of the man's leg. The green-haired man falls face down on the asphalt again, having never managed to deal with Harry and his weapon. The rest of the group runs up to the main character. The audience continues to comment on what is happening. Blue-Eyed does not tolerate insults from his opponents, attacking them with an axe. One man falls on the other. Both bandits become very clumsy. The brown-haired man continues to chop down his opponents with a stone face. He is really tired of this. The protagonist wipes the blood off his axe with one movement, ending the fight. The green-haired man asks Harry to stop. Does the man really have the strength to talk? The boss is very scared that the guy killed his subordinates, who were dear to him. Blue-Eyed continues to verbally toy with his victim, who looks so pitiful. But suddenly, Karen intervenes in the conversation, asking Harry to stop. The girl offers to cure this guy. The young man agrees because he wants to study the man. The green-haired man tries to do something to save himself, turning to Ian. But the brown-eyed man looks at the man with contempt and disgust. He is clearly not his friend. The brown-haired man finally asks the schoolboy what unites them, to which he replies that it is a man from a bad crowd with whom he was associated in the past. The hero is shocked by this right, but the boy replies that it was only once and now everything is fine. The brown-haired man doesn't really believe it, but the young man continues to explain the situation in detail. The green-haired man asks everyone to calm down and talk normally without picking on each other. The streamer asks the bandit if what Jan said is true, and it turns out to be true. The protagonist says that this is excellent, raising his axe into the air, intending to make another strike. His eyes begin to squirm with fear. Is he really going to die right now? But suddenly Sophie comes up and asks if the guy is really going to kill him. The long-haired woman is glad of his death, but before that the man must answer a few of her questions. The team tied the bandit to a tree that stood close to them all so that he would not escape. It turns out that they tied him to trelly, and if the man screams too much, the roots will crawl out. The brown-haired man explains this point, but the leader is sure that everything will be fine because the sun has already risen. Blue Eyes is amazed that the man knows about the trellis, but then he tells them about their roots. Learning all the information about these monsters, the green-haired man is very scared of such facts. The main character himself admits to himself that all his intimidation is a lie, but the man falls for it. Shaitan recalls that another man said the same thing, begging him not to kill. Namely, the man whose head the green-haired man smashed, asking to be saved. The man immediately becomes very scared, telling them that their gang is called the Black Tattoo and consists of 20 people. The gamer asks what exactly they do. Do they just wander around and kill survivors? The chapter explains that it was because their truck had overturned and they needed parts to repair it. The streamer thanks the man for all the information he provided, patting him on the cheek, after which the entire group of friends goes in another direction, leaving the bandit all alone. Blue Eyes says he forgot something while the man asks not to leave him like this. Turning around, the brown-haired man says that the seed needs to be nipped in the bud, whatever that means. We see a large amount of blood covering everything around. Apparently the bandit was killed. A few moments later, we see a group of several people who look like bandits. In front of them is a tree that is completely covered in blood. Apparently, it is the green-haired one. And indeed, the man is still tied to this tree, but he is long dead or unconscious. One of the men asks if he should report this to his boss. The other replies that he should, but first he needs to find who did it. The bandit looks like the leader. It seems that the man was tortured, and it was done cruelly. One of the subordinates finds the rest of the body, called the blonde captain. The gang moves closer to examine the picture in as much detail as possible and draw conclusions. The group of men continue to discuss out loud who exactly could have committed such barbarity. Since the body is still warm, the gang decides to look for the killer in the area around the crime scene. The man with the temple says that today he expects a lot of funerals, approaching the bodies. Then the voice introduces us to a man. His name is Jin. I wonder who this voice is. This is Ian, who explains exactly how everything works in this gang, completely representing the man. The brown-haired man continues to think about all this, to which the boy says that he is sorry for causing so much trouble. But the blue-eyed man says that there is nothing to worry about, because sooner or later they would have met on their way. Then the brown-eyed man talks about how everything happens inside the gang. The boss creates several squads. The gamer asks if these 3 guys were from the patrol because it looked something like this. And yes, it really is a patrol squad that carries out the boss's orders. Shaitan recalls that there are only 20 members of the gang, asking if there are really only 17 left. The whole group turns to the right and sees a truck covered in blood. Jan remembers what the leader is talking about. The streamer decides to see what exactly is in this van, asking if there were any infected there. The nurse attracts attention by saying that all the insides of the car are broken. The guy approaches her to do the inspection himself and the action. The car is not in the best condition. Blue-Eyed is amazed at how bad the truck is in. Sophie asks if the car was damaged by the infected. The hero replies that it was indeed so. Shaitan asks what kind of pirates would destroy their own ship, and the audience also comments on this. The guy looks around. I feel someone's gaze on me, asking everyone to wait a little. The young man goes around the alley swinging his axe, but the man asks him to wait. The man asks not to attack him while shouting loudly at the top of his lungs. The main character says that a person must say who he is if he doesn't want problems. It turns out that this man is the driver of this truck, who was able to miraculously escape. The streamer asks the schoolboy if he has seen this guy before, and it turns out that he hasn't. The driver says that he immediately realized that the whole group was not those guys, because there was a schoolboy with them. The man was accosted by several guys with tattoos who then smashed the heads of his comrades. The driver breaks out in a cold sweat, asking if they have seen another man in such a uniform. Harry thinks about the fact that the man doesn't yet know that his comrade is dead, then asks where the bandits went. The driver points to the south. The blue-eyed man replies that it does not intersect with their path. Everything is fine. Why, even the man himself is shocked, because he expected a completely different reaction from the guy. Breaking out in a cold sweat, the driver asks how he is, to which the streamer replies that he is on his own. Are they really not going to go south? Do they really not need a car? The man asks these questions. Blue Eyes replies that it was there that they met the guys from the Black Tattoo Gang. But the man begs all four friends not to go north because they can't get there without a car. The brown-haired man turns to this statement, not understanding what exactly the driver is talking about. The man talks about how there are too many monsters there that kill almost everyone. In fact, those who arrive by car do so calmly because the monsters do not touch them. The main character asks the audience if they know about this, to which they tell him about the detector. Blue-Eyed understands that in reality they cannot cope without a car. The man says that the vine has spread everywhere and there is practically no salvation anywhere. The brown-haired man suggests going north, but at this time the brown-eyed man persuades him to go south. The boy is very worried about the streamer's condition because these bandits are very strong. The elder replies that there is nothing scary about them, and the boy does not need to worry about this at all. The driver intervenes in the conversation, saying that Harry is truly an amazing person. The young man is embarrassed by the fact that the audience is commenting so much. You don't see that often. The man who was driving this truck finally introduces himself. His name is Jacob. He sits with joy. Shaitan thanks Jacob for all the information he provided, wishing him luck. The man looks at him with disappointment because he thought that they would go together. The main character says that even if he really wanted to take the driver with him, he simply cannot. The audience, like the man himself, does not understand what is going on, but we see a small wound on his hand. Karen immediately understands what is being discussed, after which Harry says that this is not just an ordinary scratch. Jacob thinks it's just a stroke, but the nurse immediately realizes that these are symptoms of an infection. The gamer says that the girl is a medical student, after which the man becomes even more worried. But the driver still asks for help, sitting on the asphalt in complete despair, covered in cold sweat. Jacob asks if it will be okay if he cuts off his own arm, thus saving his body. The streamer is very scared by what was said because he did not expect such a turn of events. Karen tries to talk the man out of amputation, leading him to believe he could die from blood loss. The nurse explains in detail to the driver the risks of this operation. Having listed all the disadvantages of the operation, the girl asks if he really wants to do it. The main character asks to leave Jacob alone, but the curly-haired girl insists on her own because she needs permission. Blue Eyes says that if a lot of time has passed since the infection, then they will only speed up the man's death. But the driver agrees to all the risks of this operation because he really wants to live and will do anything. Breaking out in a cold sweat, Jacob says he doesn't want to die such an unfair death. Brown-haired asks Karen to disinfect his axe, to which she immediately agrees. The gamer asks his viewers to give him a mission to save this guy in order to prolong his life. The audience is very skeptical, but in the end, 2 people chip in for one mission. Reading the mission, we understand that it is quite strange and cruel, which the hero himself understands. The girl hands the protagonist a clean axe so that he can finally get started. Blue Eyes also asks Karen if she knows what to do next, to which she perked up. The nurse gently closes Jacob's eyes to at least ease his pain. Harry asks what she's doing because she's supposed to be holding a man's hand, not covering his eyes. Swinging the axe, the hero remembers that he must first cut off the fingers because these are the conditions of the mission. The streamer asks viewers if he can cut off his hand first and then his fingers, but it's pointless. The driver opens his eyes. Apparently, he really was going to watch his hand get cut off. Hearing the scream, the schoolboy insists that they really are chopping off a hand, to which Sophie exhales heavily. The brown-eyed man flinches again, and the typist wonders what Harry has come up with this time. The long-haired girl says that she needs to thank the brown-haired man afterwards, since they were allowed not to be present during the operation. To which the boy immediately agrees. He really couldn't stand being there. The brown-eyed girl understands that he hits more than once. How many times does he cut this hand? All sounds suddenly stopped, and the room was filled with tense silence. The door behind which everything happened is opened by Karen, who, as always, looks scary. But then her expression becomes very sweet again, and she says that we can come in. Entering the room, Sophie asks how exactly the operation went, because she has serious doubts. The typist can't believe he actually did it as she moves closer to his hand. The brown-haired man says that only the thumb remains there, to which both heroes gasp in amazement. The schoolboy asks if Jacob is okay right now, looking at him from afar. If the man does not wake up within 5 minutes, then all the heroes will have to leave without him. A group of friends can't wait long because a group of black tattoos is walking around them. But immediately after these words, the driver suddenly gets up from the bed, immediately coming to his senses. At first, the man does not understand what is happening, but then, looking at his hand, he realizes that it has been cut off. Blue-eyed asks the driver how exactly he feels now, because he lost consciousness from pain. Jacob feels just great, immediately starting to thank the main character. The brown-haired man is glad that the man was able to withstand such a test, but now he needs to calm down. The driver took Harry's help a little too seriously, getting down on his knees and starting to thank him for his help. But suddenly a strange sound is heard, which immediately catches the gamer's attention. We see some guy kicking a car, asking where he can find something that isn't damaged. It turns out that this is the same car that we saw not so long ago and the people from the black tattoo. Several guys are found on the street, and the windows of the building where the heroes are located look out onto them. Both guys continue to discuss why the boss ordered this car to be restored. While both young men discuss the car, the blue-eyed man hides to eavesdrop on their conversation. Both guys say that the people who assemble these machines are not the best, because then they don't work. One of the guys talks about going crazy. Harry comes to the conclusion that they are actually afraid of the boss. Then the blue-eyed man tells his comrades that there are 2 guys outside who are inspecting the car. Shaitan says that the best thing to do would be to follow these young men rather than kill them. The schoolboy and Karen agree, but Sophie says it would be best to send one person to do surveillance. The gamer really thinks about this idea seriously, thinking about who would be better to send. His gaze falls on Jacob, whose arm was amputated just a couple of seconds ago. The action moves forward a few minutes, and we see the guys from Black Tattoo moving parts of the car. Hearing a strange sound, one of the young men stops to figure out what exactly is going on. The blonde guy asks his partner, the guy in the mask, if he heard anything, but he replies that he didn't. The driver was actually sent to follow these guys. He doesn't understand why he got it. The blonde drops the tire from his hands, seeing what is now right in front of them. It turns out to be Captain Jin with his subordinates. The man says that the guys are working hard. The temple asks the young men not to worry, because he is not here for them, but is looking for someone nearby. The blonde one tells them about a man who killed 3 of their group, Black Tattoo. Both guys are in shock. She guesses that most likely the boss does not yet know about this incident. The temple says there is nothing to worry about as they will soon find the culprit. Then the group finally goes their separate ways. Jacob breathes out. It's finally over. The man understands that the commander is now heading towards the main character, so what will he do? The driver doesn't know what to do. If he follows the guys, he will find the base. But the man decides that the most important thing now is to warn others about the impending threat. Jacob waits for the right moment to emerge from his hiding place unnoticed. After a tense wait, he finally managed to do it and now runs as fast as he can to the main character. Arriving at the place, the man sees something that surprises him greatly. He even breaks out in a cold sweat. We see Sophie already fighting one of the bandits, bending his arms and striking him in the leg. The brown-eyed man also doesn't lag behind, starting to pour it right into the other man's face, spraying blood. Karen, in turn, pierces the eye of one of the young men with a scalpel, although she said that she did not want to harm anyone. Seeing this whole picture, the hero cannot believe his eyes. Are his comrades really that experienced? We also see Captain Jin standing in a defensive position with his knife, ready to attack. Blue-Eyed says that the captain is not as scary as Jan said. Jin asks the main character if he was the one who cut up his guys, to which Harry himself answers vaguely. The brown-haired man asks if the man really bothered the younger one that much. Scar tenses up when he realizes that it's all about the brown-eyed guy. The gamer tries to switch the captain's attention to himself, because the main one must resolve issues with the main one. The blonde man is amazed at how brazenly the main character behaves. The streamer is clearly making fun of the man. He should have been more careful with his words. The man breaks out in a cold sweat and his expression becomes more menacing. The captain turns his attention to the disabled man because he understands that things are bad. The blonde man, with one deft blow of his hand to the man's spine, weakens him. Jean says that if anyone comes near him, he will immediately kill Mason. Blue-Eyed replies that the man turned out to be an even greater non-entity than he could have imagined. The brown-haired man really expected to see at least a drop of pride from such a person, but this is not the case at all. Jin tells the protagonist not to dare approach him, to which the streamer says that the bandit should be treated accordingly. Jacob tells the streamer not to worry, as he is already at his limit. The next moment, the captain plunges a knife into the man's body, blood spurting from the wound in all directions. Shaitan did not expect such a turn of events, clearly being in a state of shock. The disabled man lies on the asphalt covered in blood, while the blonde man runs away in the other direction. Blue-Eyed is clearly unhappy with this outcome of events, calling the captain not the most pleasant words. The chase begins. The main character runs as fast as he can after the blonde man to take revenge. Having caught up with the man, he hits the temple's back with all his might with his axe, causing him to scream loudly. Jean collapses on the pavement as Harry asks him about the most appealing part of the show. An apology is all the streamer needs right now because this man is just disgusting. This time, the axe flies into the captain's hand, to which he begins to scream even louder. The blue-eyed man demands that the man start asking for forgiveness. Apparently, everything is very bad. The brunette hits his opponent with an axe with all his might on the back of the head, causing the audience to immediately write comments. The guy continues to be very persistent, continuing to insist on an apology. The man finally understands what's going on and asks the guy for forgiveness, while the guy stands over him with a gun. The blonde man tries to defend himself with his hands, persuading them to spare him in any way. But the gamer continues to stand his ground, taking Scar's head by the hair in his hand. The protagonist turns the captain's heads towards his friends, ordering him to apologize to them. Harry says that even words aren't enough, so he presses Scar's head into the asphalt. A typist approaches the streamer, obviously to finally stop him, because the young man has done enough. The long-haired girl asks him to finally stop, but the blue-eyed man doesn't listen at all. The gamer, after beating the man for a long time, finally stops by letting go of his hair. The nurse also reports that Jacob's mission has gone further, they've only delayed the spread. Karen believes that the situation was made worse by the additional injury the driver received. The man comes to his senses and manages to say that he is truly sorry. The brunette replies that there is no need to apologize now after asking if the man has found the location of the black tattoo. Surprisingly, the man can still move, and he says that he can show the way. The protagonist is amazed that Jacob can move, but it is just agony. The gamer asks the younger one if he is ready to sever all ties with his dark past, to which he answers in the affirmative. The action moves to the black tattoo gang itself, who have gathered near the trucks. We see Jacob with his arm cut off. He really is about to transform. The man tries his best to attract attention by shouting insults at the gang. All the participants look at him with some suspicion, because they are seeing this man for the first time in their lives. The disabled man asks the boss, and we see a red-haired man step into the center of the circle. The man is acting very aggressively. Apparently this is the boss of the black tattoos, whose name is Harold. Jacob says that he came to kill the boss. He recognized him by the features that the schoolboy described. The red-haired man says that the man has gone completely crazy, as have his subordinates. The boss continues to respond to the driver very aggressively, intending to harm him as much as possible. One of his subordinates hands him an iron stick, which he happily accepts. The red-haired man reports that they have finally collected all the parts for the machines. He doesn't want anyone to be able to ruin it. The man literally seethes with pain, the veins on his face bulge, and his gaze becomes more furious.